I spent 500 million. Bought the famous fishing platform Scenic Spot in Huacheng. The whole internet is mocking me. But I don't care. They're only going to die of thirst. High voltage electric fences went up at the entrance. Because only I know that in 10 days, the zombie apocalypse will arrive. By then, the world will become a living hell. And this place will be humanity's only Noah's Ark. I shot up from the bed, drenched in cold sweat. I frantically felt all over my body with my hands. There was no sticky blood, no foul decay, only the hard wooden bed beneath me, and the cheap smell of instant noodles wafting in the air. The last scene in my memory was in that cold villa basement, where a pack of starving zombies tore me to pieces alive. With trembling hands, I grabbed the phone by my pillow. The screen lit up. The white glow instinctively made me squint. February 6th, 2026. Lunar calendar, 19th day of the 12th month, 10:20 a.m. I stared hard at the numbers on the screen. My heart was racing out of control. I'm back. Really back. There are still 10 days before the zombie virus that wiped out humanity breaks out. Exactly 10 days left. I remember it vividly. The day of the outbreak in my previous life was New Year's Eve, when the whole country celebrated. It was a day for family reunions. But the virus quietly spread along with the firecracker smoke. That night, countless family reunion dinners turned into last meals separating the living and the dead. Looking at the red lanterns hanging outside on the busy street and the crowds shopping for the new year, I felt not a trace of joy. Before I could even sort out my excitement and fear over being reborn, my phone suddenly vibrated. An unfamiliar overseas number flashed on the screen. Its origin was a string of gibberish. Seeing that number, my eyes instantly froze. At this exact moment in my last life, I also received this call. I had just woken up then, thought it was an international scam, hung up and blacklisted it immediately. Until the apocalypse came. During an escape, I found an old newspaper and saw in the corner's missing person ad the news that haunted me for life. A mysterious overseas Chinese tycoon was searching for their only relative in China as they neared death. And that relative was me, an orphan. Just because I hung up that call, I lost my chance at inheriting their fortune. At the start of the apocalypse, I was penniless, forced to scrape by in the rubble like a homeless dog, and ultimately died miserably. I took a deep breath. My fingers trembled, but I firmly slid to answer.
Hello.
Is this Miss Xiamo? I'm William Chun, agent attorney for your distant second aunt. Sorry for disturbing you. There's an urgent inheritance document that needs your immediate confirmation. All right, where is the location? I'll go over now, if it's convenient for you. I'm currently at Cloud Top Hotel, right in your city. Executive lounge. Just bring your ID. I'll be there in half an hour. I got out of bed, rushed into the bathroom, splashing cold water hard onto my face, staring at my young, healthy self in the mirror. My gaze gradually sharpened like a blade. Zombie apocalypse anniversary. And that damned mysterious organization. This time, I'm the hunter. 30 minutes later, top floor of Cloud Top Hotel. William adjusted his gold-rimmed glasses. After confirming my identity, he handed over some documents. Miss Xiamo, all of your second aunt's liquid assets are inherited by you. After deducting all taxes, you have immediate access to the cash flow, about 1 billion RMB, even though I was mentally prepared for 1 billion. My hand holding the glass still shook suddenly. In my previous life, I thought it was just a few tens of millions, but it turned out to be 1 billion. In a world about to collapse, money turns into useless paper later on. But in these 10 days before the apocalypse, it's a ticket to the throne of survival. Miss Xiamo, do you need a moment to process? No, where do I sign? I want it credited right away.
10 minutes later.
A bank notification sounded. That string of zeros appeared dazzlingly before my eyes. Right in my sight, Attorney William put away the documents, stood up and reached out his hand. Congratulations, Miss Xiamo. That money is enough for you to splurge for several lifetimes. But I still suggest making a financial plan. Finance isn't needed. I'm planning to start something big. I walked to the giant floor-to-ceiling window. My gaze swept over the bustling city, looking out toward the riverside, where the cliffside buildings stood. The magnificent ancient-style architectural complex ablaze with lights. That's the landmark of Huacheng. and a hotspot for countless internet influencers. Fishing platform. I turned around, pointed at the cliff-hanging structure outside the window, and told the dumbfounded lawyer, Attorney Chan has wide connections, right? Help me contact the developer of fishing platform. I want to buy it. 2 p.m. Fishing platform operations center meeting room. I slapped a black premium credit card on the table. 500 million paid in full. I want all operating rights and property rights for fishing platform for the next 70 years. Before midnight tonight, I want this place to become a ghost town. Miss Xia, over 300 vendors, thousands of visitors. Just the breach of contract fees alone are astronomical. I'll pay double the penalty costs. Vendors who move out in 2 hours get an extra 200,000 bonus, even 1 second late. If you confirm the contract is signed, no refunds. Swipe the card. 4 p.m. The scenic spot officially announced its closure. The vendors initially wanted to protest, but faced with double penalties and 200,000 cash rewards, anger instantly turned into ecstatic joy, packed up immediately. The originally long evacuation process was completed at lightning speed under the power of money. Even visitors left satisfied after receiving compensation. The news quickly shocked the whole web. A mysterious rich lady spends 500 million to buy fishing platform. Crazy. Clearing the area, paying penalty fees just to remodel. LOL, does this girl have a screw loose? The annual maintenance for those old fishing platform buildings is tens of millions. Buy it for what? To play Mountain Lord? I really can't understand the world of the rich. Deposit 500 million in the bank. Isn't living off the interest better? Certified. Absolutely a prodigal. Waiting to see her go bankrupt and cry pour in half a year. I sat in the cafe, a cold smile on my lips. Bankrupt. In 10 days. Your money will truly become worthless paper. I got up, walked to the railing. It was late night, the fishing platform once brilliant with lights. Now it was pitch black. Below my feet, the surging Changling River water rushed by. Far away, the city was still lively. Miss Xia. Hurried footsteps sounded behind me. Lawyer William arrived with several people in hard hats, accompanied by serious-looking middle-aged men. These gentlemen are the heads of the top domestic construction teams. They have all signed the highest-level non-disclosure agreements. Boss Xia, you mentioned special reinforcement on the phone. Specifically, how do you want to proceed? This fishing terrace has a stilt house structure. Too much movement could cause a collapse. I turned around, pulled out a pre-drawn blueprint from my jacket, and slapped it onto the table. By the moonlight, old John saw the contents of the blueprint clearly, and his pupils dilated. That wasn't a renovation plan at all. It was practically the design for a war fortress. Boss Xia, what kind of war are you trying to defend against? Don't ask what you shouldn't ask. I'll provide the materials. Labor fees will be tripled. I have only one requirement. At all costs, work 2 shifts. The machines don't stop even if the men do. Within 10 days. I want this blueprint to become a reality. Construction starts tonight. First, blow up that sky bridge connecting to the road above. At 3 a.m., a massive explosion tore through the night sky of Flower City, connecting the top floor of the fishing terrace to the iconic landmark of Kangbai Road. The sky bridge collapsed amidst the dust of a controlled demolition. Tons of reinforced concrete debris plunged into the deep valley below, kicking up a massive cloud of dust. At this moment, the upper part of the fishing terrace became an impassable cliff. Boss Xia, it really is an isolated island now. It'll be hard if you ever want to get out in the future. In the future? It's the people outside who will find it hard to get in. The road above is cut off. Now seal the entrance below. Notify Team 2 to go to the ground floor immediately, at the Binjiang Road entrance. Over the next few days, the fishing terrace turned into a frantically operating mechanical beast. Countless heavy trucks formed long lines, using the cover of night, to transport tons of steel, cement, and specialized equipment into the scenic area in the ground floor blockade zone. The originally spacious entrance of the scenic area was dismantled. In its place were 2 bank vault-grade blast doors, half a meter thick, to withstand the pushing force of a zombie tide. I also had a wall of reinforced concrete, 3 meters thick, poured behind the main gate, leaving only a side door just wide enough for one person. to serve as an emergency exit. In the middle-tier defense zone, the intricate stairs and corridors inside the fishing terrace were transformed by me into a death maze. At every critical turn, retractable steel grates were installed. Once activated, the entire building would be divided into dozens of independent sealed areas. Along the corridor ceilings, every 5 meters, an industrial-grade fire sprinkler head was installed. In the top-tier defense zone, I requested that on the roof of the top floor, a row of massive steel plates be installed. These plates were tilted outward at 45 degrees, with surfaces as smooth as mirrors, coated with anti-rust oil. This was to prepare for the upcoming zombie rain. When the zombie tide crowded the road above, they would fall like dumplings when things got out of control. With these deflector plates, the falling zombies would slide directly into the river below, without damaging the building itself. The energy core was in the most hidden second basement level. Several high-power hydroelectric generator units, originally for factory use, were undergoing intense testing.
Thick intake pipes were inserted directly into the surging river.
As long as the Changling River didn't run dry, this fortress would always have power. Countdown to the apocalypse. 3 days. The project progress was much faster than expected. Motivated by triple wages, the workers showed incredible energy. I stood on the newly completed top-floor observation deck, stomping hard on the thickened steel plate. Floor. The once fragile internet-famous spot had vanished, replaced by a steel beast clad in antique-style architecture, but armed to the teeth on the inside. That's about enough. Old Zhang, have the workers clear out. I'll give them an extra month's salary. Tell them to hurry home and spend time with their families. Old Zhang left with the workers, thanking me profusely. As the last construction vehicle drove away, the massive blast doors slowly closed, letting out a dull thud. The entire fishing terrace fell into a dead silence. Only I remained, along with a German shepherd that had wandered in from somewhere. Woof! The black and white dog, Dahe, tilted its head and barked at me, its eyes filled with a clear sort of silliness. I froze for a second, then smiled. In my previous life, I found this dog after the apocalypse began. I didn't expect it to find its own way to my door in this life. Since you're here, don't leave. From now on, this is our home. Come on, I'll show you the good stuff we've stockpiled. The lights suddenly flickered on. The fishing terrace, which used to be a tourist hub, now had a 4th-floor hall that revealed a breathtaking visual impact. It was no longer a noisy commercial street, but a super warehouse. I led Dahe through the mountain-like piles of supply crates, like a queen patrolling her domain. Section A, Source of Life. Half of the hall was filled with stacks of mineral water and bottled water, piled all the way to the ceiling. Although it sat by the Changling River and didn't lack water, water sources in the early apocalypse are easily contaminated. This pure water is enough for me to drink for 50 years. Next to it were hundreds of cases of various drinks. Coke, Sprite, and Red Bull were all there. Section B, Food Paradise. This is the true granary. Thousands of bags of vacuum-sealed Northeast rice and flour were neatly arranged like city walls. Next to them were tons of noodles, instant ramen, and self-heating hot pots. I even set aside a cold storage room, stuffed with vacuum-packed hot pot soup bases. A full 5,000 packets. Section C, Meat Lovers. Several giant freezers that originally belonged to merchants were running at full power, filled with whole carcasses of pork, beef, and mutton, as well as boxes of frozen chicken wings and ribs. This meat can be preserved for years at ultra-low temperatures. In the corner were dozens of cases of expensive imported canned goods. That was the emergency reserve. Section D, Arms and Medicine. In an inconspicuous storage room, I opened the fingerprint lock. There was no food inside, only several heavy black engineering cases. Opening the cases, a cold metallic luster met my eyes. These were contraband items I got from the black market at a high price. Several composite crossbows with silencers, dozens of high-voltage stun batons, crates of raw materials for Molotov cocktails, and several sets of top-tier stab-proof vests and gas masks. Though I haven't obtained firearms yet. In the early stages of the apocalypse, this equipment is more than enough to deal with ordinary zombies and thugs. On the shelves nearby was a medicine cache gathered from emptying 3 pharmacies. Antibiotics, painkillers, bandages, vitamins in the apocalypse. A single amoxicillin pill could be worth a human life. February 16th, 2026. Countdown to the apocalypse. 10 minutes. The sky over Flower City was lit up by fireworks. The deafening sound of firecrackers erupted one after another, drowning out the occasional strange howls, echoing from the corners of the city. I sat on the luxurious top-floor viewing deck of Diodai. A plentiful New Year's Eve feast was set before me. Braised pork, steamed bass, boiled shrimp, and a bubbling 9-section hot pot. Dahai sprawled under the table, gnawing madly on a massive marinated bone. I poured myself a glass of red wine and swirled it gently, then raised a high-powered military binoculars and looked across the river toward the direction of X9 laboratory. According to the news in my previous life, the virus outbreak was caused by a laboratory accident. 2358. A strange red light suddenly streaked across the distant sky. 2359. The red light crashed down. In that direction, a massive mushroom cloud rose up. Midnight. The New Year's bell rang. Almost at that very moment, through the binoculars I saw the crowd surrounding the lab suddenly fall like dominoes, then stand back up with unnaturally twisted bodies. They started violently attacking. There are unsuspecting family members nearby. Friends, it all began. I put down my wine glass and pressed the main control switch on the wall. All exits of Diaoyutai were completely sealed. Heavy steel plates crushed down, separating this place from the hell outside. I picked up a piece of tripe and dipped it up and down in the boiling chili oil. The apocalypse has arrived. February 17th, 2026. The first day of Lunar New Year. It should be a day to visit relatives and wish friends a happy new year. But Huacheng was shrouded in deadly silence, which was soon shattered by heart-wrenching screams. The virus spread far faster than anyone could imagine. In just one night, the airborne initial strain had infected those with weaker constitutions. Those people mutated, biting madly, causing the infection rate to skyrocket exponentially. Daote, this isolated island on a sheer cliff, felt like a Noah's Ark right now. I stood behind the bulletproof glass on the 11th floor, holding a cup of hot coffee, coldly overlooking Riverside Road below. Riverside Avenue, once buzzing with traffic, was now a slaughterhouse. Several out-of-control cars had crashed together and were ablaze in a raging fire. Crowds covered in blood ran frantically, chased by a group of stiffly moving, but tireless monsters. Help! Somebody help! A group of survivors noticed the anomaly at Diaodutai. The whole city was in darkness and chaos. Only here, the gates were tightly shut. The high walls loomed. There were even faint lights visible inside. Driven by survival instinct, they rushed crazily toward the lower-level entrance of Diaotai. But when they arrived breathless and desperate, the scene before their eyes made everyone's heart sink instantly. The once grand entrance to the scenic area had long since disappeared, replaced by a cold, massive, explosion-proof steel barricade exuding a deadly aura. Not only was this door welded firmly into the rock, but the seams were also filled with thick concrete, as if the whole mountain had been thoroughly sealed off. Open the door! Hurry up! Is there anyone inside? I'm the director of the construction bureau. Let me in now. I have money and influence. Open up, I'm begging you. My kid is only 3. Just let him in. I don't have to go in myself. Dozens of survivors crowded in front of the explosion-proof door at the base of Diaoduadai, pounding desperately on the heavy steel. Some even picked up rocks and bricks from the roadside, trying to smash open the door. I stared coldly at the monitors. The middle-aged man who claimed to be the director was swinging a brick furiously, cursing while glaring into the doorbell camera. Hey, listen up in there. If you don't open up, I'll send people to tear down this illegal building. Meanwhile, at the edge of the crowd, several zombies, drawn by signs of life, were staggering closer. In the apocalypse, the most dangerous thing is the human heart. I pressed the intercom button. A cold voice blasted from the speaker outside the gate. Everyone, leave the gate area immediately. This is private property. Trespassers will die. The crowd was stunned for a second, then erupted in even more furious outrage. You ignore everyone and still talk about private interests. You must have food in there. Hand it over now. Everybody, let's rush it together. Break the door down. This woman is refusing to help. She's a monster. Egged on by the director. A few strong men grabbed a thick steel pipe and started slamming the explosion-proof door. The dull pounding made my eyes go completely cold. If they want to die, I'll give them what they want. I took a compound crossbow from the weapons chest nearby, cracked open the observation window just a sliver, and aimed at the most aggressive shouter, the director. The next second, a steel-tipped bolt pierced through his shoulder. The force pinned his whole body to the wall behind him, his screams suddenly drowning out all the uproar. Everyone looked up in terror toward the top. At that dark shooting port, the next shot goes to your head. You have 10 seconds to get out. Finally, fear of death overpowered their greed, and the crowd shrieked and scattered. But it was all far too late. The banging and the screams had already drawn every zombie within hundreds of meters. Hordes of zombies surged from the street corner, pouncing on those who hadn't made it far. Blood sprayed everywhere. Screams erupted endlessly. Meanwhile, on the other side of Daodutai, a few of the faster mutating zombies were actually attempting to climb up, using the cliffside drainage pipe. I sneered and lightly pressed the red button on the control panel. A blue electric arc instantly burst across the metallic grid on Daodutai's outer wall. The zombies halfway up froze and convulsed violently, their bodies twitching uncontrollably, smoke and the stench of charred flesh pouring out. They couldn't even scream. Before turning to charcoal and tumbling into the river below, I put down the crossbow, turned and walked back inside. Dahei, time to eat. I scooped a piece of perfectly cooked beef out of the pot and tossed it to the dog at my feet. On the third day of the apocalypse, Wachen's sky was shrouded in heavy black smoke. The haze from countless fires. The air reeked of burning and charring, along with the nauseating stench of rotting bodies. The once prosperous Mist City had completely fallen. According to memories from my previous life, today, 90% of the world's communications towers would fail for good. Electricity and water supplies will also shut down entirely within the next 24 hours. Human civilization has officially been thrust back into the jungle age. Inside Daodyotai, life felt far too comfortable. The copper pot's chili oil was boiling. The rich aroma of butter spreads everywhere. I pick up a piece of crispy tripe. Following the 7-up, 8-down rule, I swish it in the boiling broth, coated with garlic paste and sesame oil. I swallow it in one bite, then tilt my head back and gulp down a big mouthful of ice-cold beer. A satisfied sigh escapes me. Next to me, Dahei is lying on the carpet, bored and chewing on premium ham. His disdainful expression seems to say, "Meat again?" I want to eat dog food. I give him a side glance and toss a piece of Wagyu his way, not very kindly. Just be glad you have something to eat. There are people out there who can't even chew on bark. Just like I said, through the one-way bulletproof glass on the 11th floor, the world outside is pure hell. The streets are filled with wandering zombies. Every so often, a survivor bursts out of hiding in search of food, only to be instantly overwhelmed by the horde. From the once tall buildings, people occasionally leap out in utter despair. Right at that moment, a familiar yet strange whistle pierces through the thick glass and faintly reaches me. My hand pauses abruptly as I'm picking up food. Hearing that sound, I put down my chopsticks and walk up to the floor-to-ceiling window, picking up the high-powered binoculars to scan below. In a blind spot beneath Daoyutai, a man, covered in blood and rags, is hiding behind an abandoned bus, clutching a homemade whistle in his hand, desperately blowing toward Daojutai. Even though his face is covered in dust and blood has turned to ash, I'd still recognize him. Zhou Nian, the man I treasured above all in my last life, the one I swore to protect with my life, the one who, when I was feverish and weak, pushed me into a horde of zombies to fight over the last piece of bread. My fiancé. Finally, he's here. I watch through the binoculars. At that face filled with fear and calculation, and a cruel smile curls on my lips. It was also the third day in my past life, when Zhou Nian finally found my hiding place, and used our secret lover's code to trick me into opening the door. Back then, I stupidly believed it was fate bringing us back together. Not only did I give him all my food, I even got seriously injured protecting him. But all I got in return was betrayal and death. and a hatred that went bone deep. The whistle keeps going. It's filled with urgency and despair. Zhou Nian clearly knows I'm here. After all, the news about me buying Dao De Tai was the talk of the city. How could a gold digger like him not pay attention? I turn and walk to the control panel. I don't rush out impulsively like in my past life. Instead, calmly, I open a hidden entrance on the side of Dao Tai. This entrance connects to a fully enclosed scenic corridor. Originally, it was for visitors to enjoy the river view. But now, it's the burial ground I carefully prepared for Zhou Nian. I press the intercom button. My voice is sent to Zhou Nian's ear through a directional speaker, with just the right mix of surprise and urgency. Nian, is that you? Hurry, run to your left. There's a side door there. I'm opening it for you now. Through the binoculars, Zhou Nian hears my voice. A look of wild joy flashes across his face, and there's a barely noticeable trace of smugness. Momo, I knew you were here. I'm so scared. Help me. Zhou Nian stumbles toward the slowly opening side door, watching his desperate back. I pick up my wine glass and take a small sip. Come inside, my love. The gates of hell are already open for you. Zhou Nian staggers into the fully enclosed scenic corridor. The heavy door behind him automatically locks shut. The chaos and screaming outside are instantly cut off, leaving only a deathly silence in the corridor. And his heavy breathing. Zhou Nian wipes the blood off his face. His eyes dart around nervously. Momo, where are you? This corridor is about 20 meters long. Both sides are made of high-strength, fully transparent glass. The floor is a suspended tempered glass walkway. Through the glass, you can directly see the surging river 100 meters below, filled with swarms of zombies. My voice comes from the megaphone at the end of the corridor. I'm up ahead. Nian, are you hurt? Hurry up, I miss you so much. Momo, I miss you too. I thought I'd never see you again. Through the enlarged 4K HD surveillance footage, I clearly see his right hand clenched tightly on a tattered designer bag. The bulging veins on his wrist betray his intent. That's a knife-holding posture. And with what I know of this man, as greedy and cowardly as he is, he'd never dare cross several kilometers of zombie hordes alone. Someone has to be backing him. Most likely that mysterious organization's hunting team is lurking nearby. He's just the bait to scout the way. As long as he can trick me into opening the door, he can take my head and exchange it for that so-called Noah's Ark ticket. If you want to put on a show, I'll play along. Just as he reaches the center of the corridor, two steel doors suddenly drop down front and back, sealing off the entire 20-meter corridor, turning it into a sealed chamber. Momo, what's going on? Why did the doors close? I'm standing above the glass, looking down at him from above, a wine glass still in my hand. The ceiling above the corridor slowly opens, revealing a thick layer of bulletproof glass. Is this for safety, Momo? Why are you looking at me like that? It's me, Nian. I'm your fiancé. I know you're Zhou Nian. Precisely because you're you, I'm going to treat you well. What do you mean? Xiamo, don't forget you're an orphan. I was with you because I didn't mind you being poor. Now that you're rich, you want to turn your back on me. Looking down on me for being poor, huh? Then that knife in your bag. Is it for peeling apples for me? Zhou Nian's face turns deathly pale in an instant. He instinctively clutches his bag. And that mission your mysterious benefactor gave you. How's it going? Are you even human or a ghost? I'm a ghost that came back from hell to take your life. I'll give you a chance. Hand over what you stole from the organization, and I'll give you a quick end. What thing? I don't know what you're talking about. The X serum. Don't play dumb. I know exactly what you are. That serum the organization gave you. You absolutely kept a dose for yourself. I tap the control panel lightly with my finger. The glass walkway under his feet suddenly becomes crystal clear. Tens of thousands of zombies below. Their twisted faces clearly visible. The final countdown to death crushes his last shred of sanity. Trembling, he reaches into a hidden pocket in his underwear and pulls out a metal vial shimmering with a blue glow. Take it, it's all for you. This is the serum you wanted. Xiamo, for the sake of our 7 years together, please spare me. I'll be your servant for life. I'll do whatever you tell me to do. Put it in the delivery tray on the floor. A small mechanical tray extends out, collects the vial, and brings it to me. I carefully check the number and color of the vial. No doubt, this is exactly what it was in my past life. The X serum that drove countless espers mad. Primary genetic purification fluid. I put away the serum, nod in satisfaction. Very good. Then let me out, okay? I walk to the control panel, my finger hovering above a red skull button. My lips curl into a cruel smile. Let you out? Of course I can. I said I'd make it quick for you. Before Joe 9 can finish his plea, my finger slams down hard. Xiaomo, you can't. Joe Nian. The tempered glass walkway under his feet splits open to either side in an instant. He doesn't even have time to finish his last plea for mercy before he plummets into the dark abyss 100 meters below. A few seconds later, a heavy thud echoes from below, followed by the excited howls of the zombie horde and the sickening sounds of chewing. I stand above, expressionless as I watch the man disappear into the zombie tide. I tilt my head back and down the rest of my wine. This new life's revenge is only just beginning. After dealing with Joe 9, I don't feel relieved at all. Instead, I'm overwhelmed by an unprecedented sense of urgency. The appearance of Joe 9 means that mysterious organization has set its sights here. In my past life, that group possessed terrifying technology and military might. Even after the apocalypse, they founded several massive survivor bases. Daoto's defenses alone might stop ordinary zombies, but not necessarily their heavy weapons. I have to get stronger. I return to the safe room at the heart of Daode. Set the blue glowing X serum. On the table, there were countless rumors about the X serum in my past life. Some said it's the key to evolution. Others believed it was a mutagenic poison. The mortality rate for ordinary people is as high as 90%. Only a tiny handful were lucky enough to awaken special powers. I take a deep breath, pick up the prep syringe, draw the blue liquid, and push the cold needle into my vein. As the plunger slowly goes down, that force called evolution surged into my body. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Agonizing pain exploded instantly. It felt like countless ants were gnawing at my blood vessels, or as if someone was pouring lava into my brain. I let out a painful scream. I fell off the chair onto the ground. My body curled up like a shrimp. My whole body convulsed violently. This was the pain of genetic restructuring. Every cell was shattering. Every neuron was reconnecting. My consciousness started to blur. Strange and surreal visions appeared before my eyes. It was as if I could see metal flowing and hear electricity singing. I even felt my soul leaving my body. The steel walls around the corridor after who knows how long. Maybe an hour, maybe an entire day. When I opened my eyes again, the world had changed. The once dark and gloomy safe house was now terrifyingly clear to my eyes. I could even see the tiny dust particles floating in the air. What's even stranger, a burst of noisy but rhythmic sounds echoed near my ears. Electric current flowing smoothly. Voltage 220 volts. Monitoring system ticking operational. Hard drive writing speed 120 megabits per second. Hydroelectric generator speed is stable. These sounds weren't heard with my ears. They echoed directly in my brain. I sat up in shock and looked at the phone on the table. In that instant, it was as if my mind reached out an invisible tentacle and instantly slipped into the phone. I didn't need to touch it with my fingers. The phone screen lit up automatically. Countless lines of code flashed through my mind. I could even directly read the raw data inside the phone's chip. This is mechanical affinity. With a single thought, I looked toward a spare metal chair in the corner and shouted in a low voice, focusing all my will. That metal chair, weighing more than 10 kilos, actually started to float, swaying in midair. Then, driven by my will, its steel pipes twisted and deformed like putty. Finally, in midair, they rolled into a solid iron ball. I panted heavily, sweat pouring down my forehead. But the wild joy in my eyes couldn't be hidden. Not only could I control electronic devices, I could directly manipulate metal. Even though my effective range right now was only about 10 meters around me, it was already an insane advantage. With this power, I'm no longer on the defensive. I closed my eyes, raised both hands in the air. Blue electric arcs danced between my fingertips. The scrap metal in the corner, as if summoned, flew into the air one after another. In an invisible field, they disassembled and merged together. Steel plates turned into armor. Hydraulic rods became powered joints. Circuit boards connected automatically.
10 minutes later,
A set of rugged, industrial, violently beautiful, prototype exoskeleton armor was quietly suspended in front of me. I stepped forward and put on this still warm suit of steel armor, wearing it on my body. As the armor locked into place, the power assist system activated. I lightly threw a punch, and to my surprise, it created a whistling sound cutting through the air. I smashed the solid wooden table in front of me to pieces. This is power. I clenched my steel-covered fist, looking at myself in the mirror like a futuristic female warrior. A mysterious organization. Tanks and cannons. Come on, let me see whose firepower is stronger. Yours or my steel. Day 5 of the apocalypse outbreak. The howling of zombies outside Diodai is getting denser. As time goes by, more and more zombies are gathering under Diodai. Outside the explosion-proof doors at the bottom of Diodai, a thick wall of corpses has piled up, almost reaching the second-floor windows. I have to clear them, wearing my homemade exoskeleton armor. I stood on the third-floor terrace. Now these zombies are the best targets for testing my new abilities. I stretched out my right hand, my palm aiming at an abandoned metal streetlight pole beyond the terrace railing, with a thought. That streetlight pole, weighing dozens of pounds, with a screeching twist of metal, was uprooted, flew into the air and deformed. A flash of blue light. The pole instantly disassembled, turning into several sharp metal javelins, hovering around me. With a flick of my finger, those javelins whistled downward, piercing the air, and stabbed into the corpse mountain below. Each javelin seemed almost alive, not stopping after piercing a zombie's skull, but instead pulling out, spinning, and attacking again under my mental command. Black blood splattered. Severed limbs flew. In less than a minute, that zombie pile nearly climbing to the second floor was cut down by half, with at least 50 zombies killed. I withdrew my mind, and the javelins flew back to the terrace. But a wave of intense dizziness suddenly hit me. My legs went weak, and I nearly collapsed. Holding onto the railing, I gasped for breath. My vision started to black out, and a nearly unbearable hunger gnawed at me. It wasn't the emptiness of my stomach, but every cell craving energy. To my horror, I was actually drooling over the gilded decor on the railing next to me, feeling an intense urge to eat it. Before my mind could process it, my body moved first, yanking off that piece of gold-plated ornament, and shoved it into my mouth like chocolate. The hard metal melted instantly in my mouth. It didn't just physically melt, it felt more like some kind of energy absorption. A warm surge rushed from my throat throughout my body in an instant. My previously depleted mental energy recovering at an incredible rate, even greater than before. It was precious metal. Staring at the half of the gold-plated piece left in my hand, realization flashed in my eyes. So, the way my superpower upgrades and recharges is literally by ingesting valuable metals. Ordinary steel can only be used as a weapon, but gold, silver, and other precious metals are my mana potions and XP packs. I tossed away the leftover gold-plated piece and rushed to the underground vault. That's my reserve of hard currency specially prepared. A full 2 tons of gold and 5 tons of silver. I opened the vault door, the golden brilliance nearly blinding. Without a second thought, I grabbed a 1-kilogram gold bar and swallowed it whole. 1 bar, 2 bars, 3 bars. As millions of dollars worth of gold was absorbed, I could clearly feel my ability transforming. The psychic tentacles in my mind grew thicker and more agile. The sensing range, previously just 10 meters, began surging outward like a tide. 15 meters, 20 meters, 30 meters. After devouring a full 100 kilos of gold, the feeling of growth finally slowed. At this point, my detection range had reached a stunning 50 meters. My control precision improved as well. Before, I could only force metal into balls or javelins, but now with just a thought, the silver bar in my hand unraveled in the air, finally weaving into a lifelike metal butterfly. Even the patterns on its wings were clearly visible. 50-meter range. Micron-level control. I clenched my fists, feeling the surge of power within. Just then, my mechanical affinity suddenly caught a strange radio wave. It wasn't ordinary radio noise, but an encrypted military frequency. I closed my eyes, my mind instantly linking into the signal, beginning a brute force hack. Within seconds, a cold voice echoed in my mind. Falcon Squad reporting. 10 kilometers from the target, Daoyutai. Confirmed that the target has heavy defensive works. Requesting permission to use heavy weapons for a strong assault. Approved. Secure the ex-agent at any cost. Any intruder shoot to kill. My eyes snapped open, and I looked toward the far end of the highway. Dust billowed on the horizon. Finally, they've arrived. A cold smile played at my lips. I turned and walked to the control panel. After eating all that gold, it's time to test your firepower. Night fell like ink. Sporadic fires flashed in the ruins of Huacheng. I stood in the command center at the top of Daodutai, both hands pressed on the console. I no longer needed to look at the screens. The entire Daodutai, every surveillance camera and electronic device within 50 meters, even every power line hidden in the walls, had become an extension of my senses. Through the encrypted signal I'd just intercepted, I've locked on the enemy's position. On an abandoned highway across the river, a convoy of 3 heavily modified off-road trucks, an infantry fighting vehicle, and 2 trucks packed with soldiers, was speeding this way like ghosts. What really put me on alert was that the top of the IFV was mounted with a small caliber autocannon. At the very end of the line, they were even towing a tarped howitzer. Looks like that mysterious group is really out to get me. I let out a cold laugh. This kind of firepower is enough to assault a small military outpost. Using it on a private shelter is massive overkill.
But I
am no longer that powerless, easily bullied person from my previous life, since you brought heavy weapons. Don't blame me for playing rough. I closed my eyes, fully unleashing my powers, reinforcing my defenses, mental currents swirling. The 2 already massive explosion-proof doors at the base of Daodutai began to morph in eerie ways. I controlled the leftover. Several tons of spare steel in the storage room to make it flow like liquid. Layer upon layer covers the surface of the blast-proof door. The once smooth door panel is now bristling with ferocious metal spikes, like a hedgehog with its quills raised. At the same time, I'm rearranging the metal molecular structure inside the door panel. Its density increases dramatically. Now it's as hard as the front armor of a tank. Trap upgrade, step 2. The maze-like stairs and corridors inside Daodutai have become a true death labyrinth. I cut down all the fixed metal railings, sharpened one end like a knife, then used my powers to make them float in midair. In the shadows at the corner, once someone rushes in, these railings instantly turn into deadly flying blades. Step 3. Offensive preparation. I put on the upgraded exoskeleton armor after gold assimilation. A faint golden glow shimmers on its surface. Its defense and support functions are several times stronger than before. In my hand, I hold a homemade heavy electromagnetic launcher, made from industrial steel bars and car springs. I also have several bundles of homemade C4 strapped on my back. Big Black stays to guard the house. I pat the trembling dog hiding in the corner, then turn and walk toward the elevator to the middle floor. The elevator doors slowly close. Right at that moment, the encrypted communication echoes in my mind once again. Falcon Squad reporting. We have arrived at the perimeter of Daodutai. Drone reconnaissance shows. The main door is tightly shut. No sign of heavy firepower retaliation. Good, no need for negotiation. First salvo. Get ready to blast open the main door. Roger, commencing fire. Before the words are finished, a high explosive grenade trailing its fiery tail hits Daodutai hard. The blast-proof door erupts into a shower of sparks. Smoke and dust fill the air, but when the smoke clears, the scene before their eyes leaves all the attackers outside stunned. That seemingly ordinary blast-proof door is completely unmoved by the grenade attack. Even most of the metal spikes on its surface remain intact. Only a section is scorched black. Report. Target main door's defensive strength is beyond imagination. Suspected to be military-grade composite armor. Then keep shelling. Fire every shell you have. We have to blow it open. Hiding behind cover, hearing this. A cruel smile appears at the corner of my mouth. Go ahead and blast away. When you've exhausted your ammo or rushed inside, you'll realize this place isn't a shelter at all. Welcome to hell. The repeated sounds of shelling make the entire DoD tremble slightly. The Falcon Squad from the mysterious organization is clearly going all out. In just 5 minutes, their door-mounted grenade launchers rained over a dozen high-explosive rounds onto the lower gate. Right after that, the autocannons on the infantry fighting vehicles began to roar. A hail of armor-piercing rounds pelted the blast-proof door and the surrounding rock walls, sending shards of rock flying everywhere. But the gate, I reinforced myself, showed a level of hardness that was downright hopeless, other than the surface becoming battered and dented, and most of the metal spikes being shaved off. The main structure remained as solid as ever. This alloy, combining gold and specialty steel, had toughness far beyond conventional understanding. Damn it, what is this turtle shell made of? An aircraft carrier deck? Captain, we're almost out of shells.
If we keep blasting like this,
We'll blow apart the whole mountainside. And still not get in. Cease fire. Bring in the tanks. Smash it open for me. The tanks, he mentioned, were actually 3 heavily modified heavy-duty engineering vehicles, with giant demolishing blades mounted on the front, and hydraulic rams attached. After modification, their engines rivaled those of real tanks. The engines suddenly roared even louder. The 3 steel behemoths belched black smoke, their treads crushing the bodies on the ground as they surged forward, toward the now deformed gate. The first vehicle slammed hard into the door, with massive force, making the whole gate twist and groan painfully. The rock at the joints started to crack. Right after, the second and third vehicles crashed in succession. Crack finally. Under the relentless ramming, the right side hinge couldn't take the strain. With a thunderous bang, the thick blast door collapsed to the ground, revealing a deep, dark passage behind it. The door's open. It's open. Everyone, charge with me. Grab the reagent. A 1 million reward for each of you. The bald commander was overjoyed, waving his assault rifle, as he led dozens of heavily armed mercenaries, following behind the vehicles, and stormed in like a tidal wave. But they didn't notice that deep inside the dark corridor, a pair of eyes was watching everything. Welcome to my maze. I stood in the 3rd floor control room and clapped my hands together sharply, activating my ability, Metal Frenzy, just as the mercenaries rushed into the lobby on the 1st floor. Without even taking in their surroundings, they heard a harsh screech of metal from above. What was that sound? A soldier instinctively looked up, and the next second his terrified eyes saw, above him, the formerly decorative metallic ceiling air ducts, and even the steel bars inside the walls, all started twisting and breaking off as if they were alive, turning into countless sharp steel spears falling from above. The 7 or 8 men in the lead were instantly skewered like porcupines. The lead modified vehicle was also run through by several thick steel beams, its engine billowing thick black smoke. It's an ambush, a trap. Fall back, retreat. The bald commander was scared out of his mind. He turned to run for the exit. But just then, by the falling gate, the scattered metal debris and wreckage on the ground started gathering again under an invisible force, sealing off their escape, cutting off their retreat. Since you came in, don't expect to leave. With a single thought, razor-sharp railings hidden around the stairwell shot out instantly, drawing eerie arcs through the air, and specifically targeting enemies trying to find cover. It was a one-sided massacre. In the cramped and complex indoor environment, my metal manipulation was practically godlike. I didn't even need to show myself. Just a flick of my fingers was enough to make this group of heavily armed thugs experience what true despair felt like. Open fire! Shoot upstairs! He's up there! The bald commander roared in despair, raising his gun and frantically shooting up at the ceiling. But the bullets hit the reinforced floor above, and the only response was a steel rod silently shooting from the darkness that precisely pierced the chest of his deputy, pinning the man to the wall. At that moment, everyone realized they'd barged into not a shelter, but the belly of a man-eating steel beast. The fight lasted only 10 minutes, and more than half of Falcon's squad had been wiped out. The first floor lobby was littered with corpses, some run through by steel rods, others crushed by fallen metal panels. Even the three once intimidating modified vehicles had become smoke-belching metal coffins. The bald commander hid behind a load-bearing pillar, covered in blood, his eyes full of terror. Damn it, what kind of power is this? Intel never said he had superpowers. Panting and gasping for air, the bald man pulled out a black remote from his pocket. This was his last card. If I can't get the reagent, then I'll just destroy this place completely. Before they came in, he'd already put a mini thermobaric bomb inside one of the infantry fighting vehicles. As soon as it's triggered, the resulting heat and overpressure would flatten levels 1 to 3 of Diote, along with the overhead structures. Let's all die together. The bald man grinned viciously and slammed his thumb on the red detonation button. But with a click, he pressed the button, and nothing happened. What the hell's going on? Looking for this. A cold voice suddenly rang out above him. The bald man snapped his head upward. There by the third floor railing stood a figure clad in gold and red exoskeletal armor, looking down at him from above. In his hand, he was flipping a disarmed detonator chip. That person was me. The moment the fight started, my technopathy picked up on an unusual electronic signal in the vehicles. While the bald commander was ordering the assault, I remotely hacked the trigger system and fried its circuit board. What are you? Desperate, the bald commander raised his gun to shoot. But before he could pull the trigger, a steel spike suddenly shot out from under the floor, piercing his wrist clean through. And nailing his hand to the pillar, the bald man let out a scream, dropping his gun on the floor. I jumped down from the third floor, the exoskeleton's hydraulic system. Let me land steadily, sending up a cloud of dust. I walked up to the bald man and stomped the remote to pieces. Now talk, where is your leader? What else is in the X9 lab? Hey, you think you've won. So what if you kill me? The boss has always been watching you. Watching me. And at that moment, the tactical helmet worn by the bald commander suddenly crackled with electricity. Before I could react, 5,000 volts surged from inside the helmet, burning straight through his temple. His body convulsed violently. His eyes rolled back, and he died instantly, his brain cooked into mush. Remote silencing. I instinctively took half a step back. Right after that, on the bald man's corpse, suddenly from the walkie-talkie
came a
cold, distorted male voice. Brilliant, truly brilliant. I never expected that failed experiment serum could actually create a perfect monster like you. Mechanical abilities. What an enviable gift. Truly remarkable. Who are you? Who's behind you and Joe Nyan? Who I am doesn't matter. What matters is, do you understand your situation right now? Miss Xiamo. Situation? All your henchmen are dead. This is my situation. No, I'm not talking about those useless fools. I'm talking about your body. Look at the tip of your left index finger. Is there a black spot there? A chill ran through my heart. I instinctively raised my left hand. Even through the metal exoskeleton, I could still feel a strange numbness at my fingertip. With a thought, I released the armor covering my hand. I saw at the tip of my index finger, a sesame-sized black spot had clearly appeared. That's a sign of neural carbonization. The X serum may have awakened your power, but it's highly unstable. Your high-intensity mechanical control is overdrawing your own bioelectricity. Every time you use your ability, your nervous system becomes 1% more carbonized. Based on the strength you just showed, I'd say you have about 24 hours left to live. After 24 hours, you'll become a fully carbonized statue, or a mindless mechanical zombie. My heart instantly sank to the bottom. I could sense the other person wasn't lying. Because right now, that numbness is slowly creeping up my finger. What do you want? It's simple. I have the only genetic stabilizer. It's in the core area of the X9 lab. If you want to live, come out on your own. And find me in the lab. Remember, you only have 24 hours. Don't try anything funny. And don't even think about running away. No one but me can save you. With that, a busy tone beeped from the walkie-talkie. The signal was completely cut off. The hall fell silent once again. looking at the slowly spreading black spot on my fingertip. Then I glanced at the corpses and ruins all over the ground. The enemy knows Diotasai is a tough nut to crack. They can't break in, so they're trying to force me out this way. Walk right into their trap. 24 hours, huh? I clenched my fist. The numbness in my fingertips gave me an unprecedented sense of crisis. Every tick of the electronic clock on the wall felt like it was pounding on my nerves. 2 hours have passed since the mysterious man's death ultimatum. It's already been 2 hours. I sat inside the control room, staring at my own left hand. That black mark, which was only the size of a sesame seed, had now spread to cover my whole fingernail. The numbness had crept up to my wrist too. Looks like he wasn't lying. I took a deep breath, forcing down my anxiety. I know there's no use panicking now. Getting to the X9 lab is the only way out. Even if it's a dragon's lair, I still have to go for it. Dahei, who had been hiding in the corner, immediately sprang out. He wagged his tail and rubbed against my leg. We're taking a trip. We might die. Are you scared? Dahei barked once, his eyes still as clear as ever, with a bit of silly cuteness. I chuckled and stood up. System, activate isolated island defense mode. Once I gave the command, the entire smart system of Diotai went into operation. All external passages were locked down again. All internal defense mechanisms activated. Hydroelectric generators switched to auto maintenance mode. Even if I'm not around, this place will still be an unbreakable fortress. After handling all that, I headed to the underground garage. There was a massive beast parked there. I had spent a fortune previously, through special channels, to get this heavy off-road armored vehicle. But the way it looks now, its own designer might not recognize it. Over the past 2 hours, I used my mechanical affinity ability to perform some crazy modifications on this vehicle. On top of the original body, I covered it with a 5 centimeter thick layer of composite armor that was made from scrap infantry. A PC wreckage melted down from earlier battles. All windows had been replaced with slit observation ports. A remote-controlled machine gun turret was mounted on the roof, and a huge V-shaped ram was added to the front, lined with sharp backwards-facing spikes. The most outrageous part was, I installed a circle of high-voltage coils around the vehicle. Any zombie daring to approach would instantly be turned to ash. Old buddy, I'm counting on you. I patted the vehicle, opened the door, loaded up a few crates of ammo, food, and water. Dahei jumped skillfully into the passenger seat and buckled his own seatbelt. The engine roared to life, like a monster awakening. I put on my gold and red exoskeleton armor, sat in the driver's seat, both hands gripping the wheel. Ability activated. My consciousness instantly merged with the vehicle. At this moment, this was no longer just a mode of transportation, but an extension of my body. I could feel every vibration of the engine, sense every pebble beneath the tires. Let's go. The main gate on the lower level slowly opened. Outside was pitch black night, a stench of death everywhere, and tens of thousands of zombies. And 5 kilometers away across the river, in the ruins of the X9 lab, the mysterious leader was spreading his net, waiting for his prey to arrive. The armored vehicle burst out of Diotai. The giant ram instantly crushed a dozen zombies blocking the gate, turning them into meat pulp. Black blood splattered across the windshield, only to be wiped away mercilessly by the wipers. My gaze was icy cold. I floored the gas pedal. These 5 kilometers ahead were destined to be a bloody road paved with corpses. The roar of the armored engine in the dead city was like a single drop of water in a pan of boiling oil, setting off a frenzy of zombies across the whole district. Countless zombies surged from the shadows of the ruins, lunging at this steel beast. They know no fear, only how to shred anything alive in their path. Bang, bang, bang. The sound of impacts was non-stop. Ordinary zombies against a several-ton, 80-kilometer-per-hour armored vehicle. Might as well be fragile scraps of paper. Instantly shredded by the V-shaped ram in front, sucked under the wheels, and mashed into flesh. Stop me. Dream on. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. Left front tread damaged. Clear it. The metal side plate next to the front left instantly reshaped itself into a spinning razor-sharp blade, mincing the corpses stuck in the tracks. Crawler hitting the right window with electricity. Blue arcs exploded along the armor's surface. That mutant zombie that had just jumped onto the roof and tried to smash the viewing slot let out a shriek, then tumbled off the vehicle smoking all over. We plowed a bloody path right through the horde. But as we got deeper into the city, the number and variety of zombies became terrifying. Ahead is what used to be a bustling commercial street, now jam-packed with tens of thousands of zombies. Abandoned cars piled up everywhere, forming a natural barrier. No way through. Dahai in the passenger seat looked at the sea of zombie heads ahead and buried his head in his paws in fear, whimpering, "If we can't drive through, we'll just crush our way through." A flash of wildness passed through my eyes. Without hesitation, I slammed the red button on the console. Full power to my ability. Metal Devour. Suddenly, thick mechanical tentacles reached out from both sides of the armored vehicle, created by my ability in an instant. The tentacles grabbed several abandoned cars on the roadside. Crackling blue light flashed, and in mere seconds the cars were broken down and compressed, turned into scalding hot streams of metal, coating the armored car's surface. The already massive vehicle swelled up another size. The ram in front became even more massive and fierce. The wheels widened into tank-like tracks, and the roof sprouted rows of sharp spikes. This was no longer a car, but a moving fortress. "Hold on tight," I shouted, pedal welded to the floor. This super tank, forged from numerous vehicles' metal, packed with refined metal, charged forward with unstoppable momentum, slamming straight into the barricade of cars up ahead. It wasn't even a contest. The abandoned cars flew apart and were crushed like toy blocks. The zombies in front didn't even have time to scream before becoming part of the road. The armored vehicle soared out from the mountain of corpses and blood, thudding heavily back to the ground, sending a spray of blood rain everywhere. Dahai lifted his head from his paws, and seeing this scene, immediately changed his attitude, barking wildly and excitedly at the window, as if he hadn't been scared at all just now. I wiped the cold sweat from my forehead. That last burst made the numbness in my fingertips even worse. The black spot had now spread up to my first knuckle. I have to be even faster. I glanced at the navigation. Only 2 kilometers left to X9 lab. That's the direction of the river bridge. Once I cross the bridge, I can go straight to the lab. But right at that moment, my pupils suddenly contracted. At the head of the bridge, a massive, oppressive dark figure was standing silently there. It was a giant nearly 4 meters tall. Its entire body had no skin, exposing dark red muscles. Its left hand was a huge, deadly claw, while its right hand had mutated into a thick bone hammer. Mutated zombie army. Looks like this is the real roadblock. I gripped the steering wheel tightly, veins bulging on the back of my hand. Dahai was ready to go all out. At the head of the bridge, the air felt frozen. That 4-meter-tall tyrant zombie was like a mountain of flesh and blood. Its dark red muscles wriggled slightly in the moonlight, giving off an overwhelming sense of oppression. Its enormous hammer-like right hand slammed heavily onto the ground, instantly creating a deep pit in the asphalt road. A furious roar, sound waves, actually shattered the windshields of the abandoned vehicles around. "Hold on tight, Dahai." I gave a determined look. Not only did I not slow down, I even floored the gas pedal. The engine of the modified war vehicle let out a beastly roar, ramming the tyrant with several tons of kinetic force. A thunderous crash echoed. The vehicle that could smash through reinforced concrete walls slammed into the tyrant, but it was like hitting solid steel. The V-shaped horns on the car pierced deep into the tyrant's abdomen, but were tightly trapped by the thick muscles. The tyrant's feet left 2 deep grooves on the ground. He let out a furious roar, wrapped his arms around the car's front, and forcibly lifted the several-ton war vehicle's front wheels off the ground. Damn, its strength is insane. I felt my head spinning, quickly activated my power. The metal plates on both sides of the car liquefied instantly, turning into over a dozen sharp steel spikes, which stabbed at the tyrant's chest. The spikes pierced 3 inches into the flesh, but were stopped by the tyrant's monstrous muscle density. The tyrant's hammer right hand swung down, instantly denting the car's armored windshield. The massive shock made my brain buzz loudly. and the black spots on my fingertips, with intense pain, spread upward again, almost numbing my entire arm up to the elbow. My power was depleted. Because of neural toxicity, my control over metal was rapidly declining. Woof, woof, woof! From the passenger seat, Dahe let out a sharp bark. He seemed to sense his owner's weakness, and those usually clear, silly eyes now revealed a fierceness and intelligence like never before. The tyrant raised his drumstick again, ready to deliver the final blow to this iron can. Just then, Dahe suddenly moved. He darted out through the gap in the car door that had just popped open. Dahe, come back. I shouted in shock, but my weakness made me unable to stop him. I saw Dahe leap high using the slope of the car body.
He didn't attack the tyrant's indestructible front.
Instead, he skillfully stepped onto the tyrant's thick leg and climbed all the way to the monster's back. The tyrant sensed the flea on its back, furiously swinging its arms, trying to grab him off. But Dahe showed agility far beyond that of ordinary dogs. He bit wildly across the tyrant's broad back. Finally, he locked onto the tyrant's nape, a slightly swollen red tumor. That was the tyrant's neural center, and its only weakness. Dahe bit down hard. His teeth sank deep into the tumor. The tyrant's entire body convulsed violently. The bone club it had raised dropped powerlessly. In that instant, I saw at the wound on the tyrant's neck. A crystal the size of a baby's fist fell out, translucent and bright red. The crystal emitted an alluring glow, as if it contained infinite vitality. I endured the soul-tearing agony and unleashed every last bit of my power. Every metal part on the APC instantly disassembled, turning into a massive metal spear. The spear turned into a streak of light, shooting straight into the tyrant's gaping mouth and exiting from the back of its head. The 4-meter-tall giant crashed to the ground, kicking up a cloud of dust. Dahe gracefully jumped down from the pile of corpses, holding the glowing red crystal in his mouth. He wagged his tail and ran to the car window, then proudly placed the crystal in my outstretched hand. I looked at the warm crystal in my palm, then at Dahe, covered in blood but completely unharmed, feeling overwhelmed with mixed emotions. You silly dog. Turns out you were always hiding your true abilities. With trembling hands, I could feel the surging energy inside the crystal. Maybe this is the key to breaking the deadlock. I held the bright red crystal, feeling as if a ball of fire was burning in my palm. That warm energy seeped in through my skin, and I actually felt a faint sensation return to my severely carbonized left hand. A long-lost feeling returned. My dead nerve endings, as if injected with new life, started pulsing wildly. This thing can save my life. I glanced in the direction of the distant X9 laboratory, then looked down at the spreading black stain up to my elbow. I don't have much time left. Rather than betting on the mercy of that mysterious leader in the lab, I should bet on this crystal right now. Fine, let's do this. I gritted my teeth, without a second of hesitation. I put the blood-stained crimson crystal straight into my mouth. Gulp. The crystal melted instantly, turning into a blazing torrent rushing into my stomach. The next second, I felt like I hadn't swallowed a crystal, but a nuclear bomb. Furious energy rapidly flooded every corner of my body. Every cell cheered with excitement. Every blood vessel boiled. The sensation was even more intense than when I first awakened my powers. But a refreshing feeling of being reborn. Crack, crack. To my surprise, the layer of rock-hard, carbon-like dead skin on my left hand began to crack and peel off. Underneath, new pink skin was revealed. This isn't just healing. I could feel my senses amplifying without limit. My mechanical affinity, previously limited to a 50-meter range, now expanded in waves, like a flooded river breaking through its banks. 100 meters, 200 meters, 300 meters. It finally stopped after covering a radius of 500 meters. Within these 500 meters, I could feel every loose screw, every current in every electrical wire, even abandoned water pipes buried deep underground. All came together in my mind, forming a clear 3D map. Scarier still, my control over metal. I raised my hand and lightly clenched my fist toward the half-wrecked armored vehicle. There was no complicated dismantling involved. The multi-ton armored vehicle instantly melted, then stretched and flowed in the air, and in seconds was reshaped into a 3-meter-long, Futuristic heavy-duty electromagnetic sniper rifle. Hovering in midair, the remaining metal formed a full-coverage nanofluid battlesuit, automatically conforming to my body. This is metal liquefaction and recombination. Feeling the battlesuit fitting like a second skin, yet being indestructible. A deadly blue light flashed in my eyes. I used to only roughly mold metal, but now, I could change its properties at the molecular level. If I wanted, I could literally make a Gundam by hand. Dahei tilted his head at my glowing golden self and barked in confusion. I squatted down and rubbed his head. Through the battlesuit's sensors, I could even clearly sense Dahei's heartbeat. Let's go, Dahei. I looked toward the far side of the bridge, at the gloomy biolab. A confident smirk played on my lips. The X9 laboratory was located in the heart of the river island, once the most mysterious research facility in the city. Now it had become a massive steel tomb. High-voltage electric fences and automatic sentry guns were set up all around. An eerie green mist drifted through the air. With Dahei in tow, I swaggered across the bridge. The moment I set foot on the island, that feeling of being watched came flooding back. Welcome, my little lab rat. I didn't expect you'd make it over the bridge alive and kill my pet, the tyrant. Looks like the mutation caused by the X serum in you has far exceeded my expectations. Enough talk. Just then, 5 shadows suddenly charged out of the green mist all around. The 5 were dressed in white, skin-tight combat suits, moving so fast it was almost ghostly. None of them carried guns, only holding semi-transparent bone blades. The mysterious organization's ace hunting squad. Target, Technomancer. Executing class termination protocol. The leader barked a command, and the 5 instantly spread out, forming a circle around me. My eyes narrowed. I shifted my position. The electromagnetic sniper rifle floating behind me fired at once. Boom! A tungsten alloy slug, shrouded in a sonic boom, shot at the leader. But strangely, the slug that could pierce a tank, at the moment it hit the black-clad figure, acted like it struck cotton, just slicing through harmlessly. What? This is the funeral prepared for you. The leader sneered coldly, and with a flash, slashed at my face with the bone blade. I raised my arm to block with the fluid battlesuit. A loud crisp clang resounded. That seemingly fragile bone blade actually left a deep white gash. In the hardened alloy armor, high polymer ceramic armor, biobone weaponry. Thanks to my mechanical affinity's rapid analysis, I instantly figured out their secret. These people had no metal components on their bodies at all. The combat suits are made of specially crafted high molecular ceramic fibers. They're extremely tough and completely insulated and resistant to magnetism. The weapons in their hands are made from high-density bones extracted from mutated creatures. It's like they're designed specifically to counter my metal abilities. Damn it, I cursed to myself. My metal manipulation is useless against these insulators. It's completely worthless. I tried to control the metal around me, but this whole area had clearly been cleared out. There's not even a scrap of metal left. The 5 hunters attacking me were perfectly coordinated. Blades flashing like a web, every strike deadly. All I could do was rely on my armor's toughness and my own enhanced reflexes to barely hold on. But even though the armor is tough, it's not indestructible under their relentless slashes. Cracks had already appeared on the chest and arm plates. Dahei wanted to rush over and help, but was kicked away by one of the hunters and slammed hard into the wall, howling in pain. The moment I was distracted by Dahei, the leader's knife pointed straight at the vulnerable gap in my neck. At that critical moment, a pillar of crimson flame suddenly burst out from the woods at the side, swallowing the attacking hunter. Under the blazing heat, even though the ceramic combat suits are heat-resistant, the exposed skin was instantly charred. The whole person turned into a ball of fire, screaming and rolling on the ground. The remaining 4 hunters were shocked and quickly retreated. Through the firelight, a red leather-clad boy with blazing red hair walked out slowly. He wasn't holding any weapon, but a dazzling orange-red flame danced in his palm. He glanced at me in my sorry state. A wildly arrogant smile curled at his lips. Hey, Iron Boy. These ceramic dolls are pretty tough. Want Big Bro to turn them into glass for you? I looked at the red-haired boy who suddenly appeared, and my mouth twitched. That nickname is pretty accurate. Even though he was teasing me, his hands moved with incredible speed, not giving the hunters the slightest chance to react. He slammed his hands together, and a burst of flames exploded out. A wave of visible heat blasted out from him as the center. The green toxins around us were evaporated by the heat in an instant. Even the weeds on the ground turned to ash in seconds. The 4 remaining hunters turned pale. Their high molecular ceramic armor might be bulletproof and insulated, but against thousands of degrees of heat, it's still not enough. The once hard shell around the heart turned red and began to soften. That's the subject codenamed 001. The traitor. Group A and Group B switch formations. Take out 001 first. All 4 instantly disengaged. The old knife in my hand glimmered with an eerie, ghostly light. They closed in on the boy from 4 directions. Just a bunch of cowards who only know how to sneak attack. One scoffed and sneered. Flames erupted wildly from his palm. Turning into 2 blazing whips, he lashed them hard at his enemies. But 2 fists can't hold off 4 hands. The hunters moved extremely fast and worked together seamlessly. 2 of them were willing to get scorched by the fire whips and force their way to one side. A tiger knife stabbed straight at his ribs. Look out! At that moment, my mech affinity ability suddenly noticed a detail. Under the intense heat, in the seemingly flawless seams of the hunter's ceramic armor, there was a tiny glint of metal. That was a micro-titanium alloy bearing connecting the joints. No matter how advanced the ceramic armor is, to ensure joint flexibility, there still needs to be a trace amount of metal parts inside. Usually these parts are tightly wrapped in ceramic, so I can't sense them at all. But now one's flames had softened the outer shell, exposing the metal parts. So that's how it is. As long as there's metal, I'm in control. 1. Aim at their joints. Maximum firepower. 1 froze for a second, then instinctively complied based on his combat intuition. Even fiercer flames instantly engulfed the 2 hunters who had gotten close, their ceramic armor at the knees and elbows fully softened, revealing the titanium alloy bearings inside.
Now.
I clenched my right hand and manipulated the metal. The 2 hunters, just about to swing their knives, suddenly screamed. It felt like the bones inside their bodies were snapped by an invisible hand, forcibly broken. In reality, it was the metal bearings inside their armor, instantly bending and twisting at my command, crushing the joints and smashing the bones. Ah, my leg, my arm! Both fell to the ground, their limbs twisted at unnatural angles, completely losing the ability to fight. Nicely done. Didn't think you, a metal wielder, had these kinds of tricks. The situation instantly reversed. The last 2 hunters finally showed fear in their eyes. Faced with this mix of physical and magical attacks, their proud equipment became their biggest weakness. Quick, retreat. But it was obvious those 2 couldn't escape now. One will burn them and crush their bones. In just 30 seconds, the so-called Ace Hunter team was completely paralyzed on the floor, turned into cripples. Fight's over. One dispelled the flames in his palm and walked up to me, checking out my flashy fluid battle armor from head to toe. A flash of envy in his eyes. Hey, I go by 001. Escaped from that hellhole. You're here to get revenge on that old monster, right? Xiamo, I'm here to get something. And send that old monster to hell while I'm at it. Perfect. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Let's team up. You handle crowd control, and I'll handle the damage. I looked at that outstretched hand in front of me, paused for a second, then reached out and shook it. 2 completely different kinds of power, cold steel and blazing fire, formed a deadly partnership in this moment. Deal. X9 Laboratory, Level B3 Underground. This is the core defense area of the entire base, and also the lost gate leading to the mysterious leader's location. The final checkpoint. In the wide metal corridor, blaring alarms screamed sharply. Red emergency lights flashed wildly. Warning, intruders have breached Area A. Alert, the entire hunter team has lost all vital signs. Activating ultimate defense protocol. All automated turrets activated. All mechanical guards deployed. A cold, electronic synthesized voice sounded. The corridor walls on both sides suddenly flipped open, revealing countless heavy machine gun turrets. At the same time, the alloy gate at the end slowly opened. Dozens of 6-foot-tall combat robots wielding rotary guns marched out with heavy steps. This was a mechanical army capable of wiping out a regular military force. Wow, that's a massive formation. So many hunks of metal. Looks like we're in for a tough fight. But I just smiled as I stood beside him, grinning from ear to ear, even with a trace of greed. A tough fight? Nope. This is an all-you-can-eat buffet. If it were the previous hunter team, their all-ceramic gear would have actually been a headache. But now, in this all-metal underground base, facing these purely metal-built units, these robots are basically mobile ammo piles for me. 1. Fire it up. It's my showtime now. Dozens of battle robots, and all the wall turrets opened fire at the same time. A storm of bullets sealed off every inch of the corridor. First instinct, raise a fire shield to defend. But the next moment, he stared with wide, terrified eyes. Every bullet flying at me suddenly froze 3 meters away, suspended motionless in the air. A dense cloud of bullets hung in the air, glowing red in the emergency lights, like a frozen nebula of metal. Back you go. I gave a casual wave, and all the bullets instantly flipped around, rocketing back even faster than before. The sound of metal slamming into metal was almost painful to hear. Dozens of battle robots were shredded in an instant, sparks flying everywhere, parts flying all over. But it wasn't over yet. My will surged out like a tide, instantly covering the whole corridor. Machine affinity, full takeover. The automated turrets that had been firing madly suddenly jammed. Their indicator lights switched from red, meaning hostile, to green for friendly forces in the blink of an eye. Next, the damaged battle robots began to tremble violently, their shattered bodies merging and reassembling under my control. Seconds later, the mechanical army that had blocked our path just moments ago all turned around, guns aimed at the far end of the corridor, at the alloy door to the core area. Open fire! I snapped my fingers. 10 heavy machine guns and turrets roaring at once, and the so-called nuke-proof alloy door was blasted into shreds by the intense onslaught, torn to pieces. As the smoke cleared, I stepped through a sea of shell casings, leading the newly converted mechanical army behind me, heading straight for the core. One followed behind, watching my back surrounded by a legion of steel guardians, unable to help swallowing hard. Level B5, core control room. An elderly woman in a white lab coat, her hair completely gray, stood facing a massive floor-to-ceiling window, her back to the door. In front of her was a huge incubation pod, with a sickening creature floating inside, a massive chunk of flesh, bristling with countless tentacles, with a brain fully exposed. You've arrived, Shamo. The old woman turned around, with a sick, fanatical grin on her face. She was holding the legendary gene stabilizer in her hand. Welcome to the cradle of the new world. I stopped in my tracks. The mechanical army behind me raised their weapons in perfect unison, all aiming at the old woman's head. You, the middle-aged mentor. Or should I call you a lunatic? Hand over the serum, and I'll give you a quick death. If you want the serum, of course I can give it to you. But before that, I want you to witness the true ultimate form of the X serum. With that, he didn't hand me the serum, but instead plunged the vial into his own brainstem. The old woman let out a ferocious scream. Her body instantly swelled and twisted violently. Countless black tentacles erupted from within her body, impaling the surrounding equipment. A terrifying aura awakened inside her. As the gene stabilizer was injected, the old woman's body underwent a horrific mutation. Her skin burst like a balloon, revealing black and red muscle fibers underneath. Countless tentacles crazily sprouted from her spine and limbs, and every tentacle ended in sharp bone. In the blink of an eye, the frail old woman was gone, replaced instead by a 5-meter-tall half-human, half-machine, exuding a stench of rot mixed with metal. Monster. The ultimate bioweapon tyrant, Unit O. So this is the endpoint of evolution. A perfect life form. The monster let out a deafening roar, its voice laced with the screech of grinding metal. It swung its tentacles and smashed the nearest combat robot into a heap of scrap metal. Perfect? I think it's perfectly worthless. Open fire. The mechanical army behind me spewed furious flames. A hailstorm of bullets pounded the monster, sending flesh and blood flying everywhere. But the monster's regenerative powers were utterly terrifying. The torn flesh and blown-off pieces healed back together within seconds. It could even swallow bullets and shrapnel and turn them into armored plating for itself. Physical attacks are useless. Then how about this? Inferno. A pillar of fire shot up from beneath the monster's feet, completely engulfing it. Thousands of degrees scorched its flesh, filling the air with the sound of sizzling meat. The monster screamed as it burst from the firestorm. Its whole body charred black, but those crimson eyes were still locked squarely onto my position. He knows I'm the woman who controls metal, is actually the greatest threat. A dozen tentacles stabbed straight at me. Metal barrier. I clapped my hands together. The abandoned machines around me instantly flew over, right in front of me, forming a steel shield a meter thick. The tentacles slammed hard into the shield. They actually pierced through the steel plate. The tip stopped just a few centimeters from my forehead. That penetrating power is insane. His bones contain high-density alloy. Mechanical King in my mind has analyzed the monster's weakness. The core is at the heart. There's an artificial mechanical heart there, so he's a half-mechanical monster too. That makes things easier. Since it's mechanical, it's under my control. I reached out my right hand, gripped the air, stopped for me. A wave of invisible force instantly enveloped the monster. The mechanical heart inside him, crazily pumping blood, suddenly felt as if grabbed tight by an invisible hand. The monster's movements suddenly froze, its huge body suspended in midair. Now's my chance. 1. Scorch its chest. Copy that, supernova blast. A dazzling white fireball like the sun burst out from his hand and crashed hard into the monster's chest. The explosion instantly swallowed the entire core control room. The terrifying heat instantly melted the monster's breastbone, revealing inside the mechanical heart that had stopped beating.
Die.
My mind, sharp as a blade, kicked hard. That mechanical heart, under the double assault of heat and willpower, instantly shattered into countless pieces. No, this can't be. I am a god beast. Let out an unwilling, sorrowful cry. Its enormous body collapsed with a crash, turning into a pool of rapidly dissolving blood. Finally, it's all over. 1 month later, top observation deck of Fisherman's Terrace. The former gloom has been driven away. Long-awaited sunlight sparkled on the rippling river. I stood by the railing, holding a glass of red wine, looking down at what was once the ruins. The city has begun to show signs of life again. X9 laboratory has been completely moved out. All research data and equipment have been transferred to the underground base of Fisherman's Terrace. Relying on this technology, I've set up a complete defense and production system around Fisherman's Terrace. Thousands of survivors are hard at work. They're clearing rubble, planting crops, building city walls. No longer desperate refugees, but citizens of this steel sanctuary. I am their queen. Hey, boss, what are you spacing out for? There's news from the lab. Phase 1 of the antidote has been completed. It can't fully remove the zombie virus yet, but at least it keeps those who are scratched from mutating. Very good. Also, Dahe, that guy stole ham from the kitchen again. The head chef is chasing him with a knife. Let him be. I turned around, looking at this fortress that's now impregnable, at the busy, hope-filled crowds, at the comrades fighting by my side. The despair and darkness of my previous life are finally gone for good. This time, I not only survived, I've become the only legend in this apocalypse. The gateway to a new world has just opened. 3rd month after the apocalypse broke out. Winter came to Hua City earlier than ever. Bone-chilling winds carried radioactive snowflakes, turning this ruined city into a world of gray silence. But atop the cliff by the river, there stands a sanctuary all survivors look up to, Fisherman's Terrace Base. By now, the terrace is far more than just a simple refuge. After receiving all of X9 Laboratories' assets, with my affinity for machines, I've transformed this place beyond recognition. The old antique wooden building, its exterior now covered with thick alloy armor plates, under the sweep of searchlights, reflects a cold metallic gleam. At the top level, several twin-barrel automatic anti-aircraft guns are mounted, their black muzzles constantly guarding the skies. With a deep rumble, a giant factory door on the terrace's wing slowly opens. A brand new, all-terrain transporter with engine oil still on its treads drives out. The 50th vehicle successfully rolls off the line. Workers' excited cheers come from the factory. I stand above in the observation gallery, nod in satisfaction. This factory was originally just an abandoned auto repair shop, but with my superpower, the production line was restored in just a week and transformed into a fully automated arms factory. Although, for now it can only make basic transports and simple firearms. But in this apocalypse, that's already a game-changing industrial capacity. 1. Clad in black tactical uniform, red hair tied up in a high ponytail. Full of heroic spirit, he's now the base's marshal and police chief, with over 200 good men under him. Boss, when will this batch of vehicles be delivered to the search team? Tomorrow morning. I turned to look at the greenhouse on the other side. It used to be the viewing platform of Fisherman's Terrace. Now it's transformed into a vertical hydroponic farm. Beneath the constant climate system and purple grow lights, rows of lettuce, tomatoes, and potatoes are thriving. Their bright green color is especially precious in this gray, shattered world. With this batch of harvest, plus the water purification equipment from the lab, we can support at least 5,000 people. Now outside the base, the line of applicants already stretches 2 kilometers out. Are you sure we want to take in that many? It'll put a lot of pressure on our food supply. I gave a deep look. In the apocalypse, people are the most valuable resource. And I'm not running a charity. I pointed at the huge electronic screen at the base gate. Scrolling across the top was the latest contribution point system issued by Fisherman's Terrace. First, we don't support anyone doing nothing. Every survivor entering the base must earn food through skills testing or hard work. Second, contribution points are king. Gathering supplies, killing zombies, helping build all count as ways to earn contribution points. Contribution points can be exchanged for food, medicine, or weapons, or even the right to live in the core area. 0 tolerance for theft, fighting, or betrayal. Immediate expulsion or execution. I'm not building a shelter. I'm building a new order. As soon as I finished speaking, a commotion suddenly broke out at the gate. A familiar dog's bark rang out. There was Dahe, wearing a special silver vest, majestically, chasing after a survivor trying to cut in line. That survivor was scared half out of his wits. No one around dared to help. Some even cheered. That mutt really knows how to play tough with backup. Dahe is now the base's mascot. Everyone knows he's my favorite. He struts around the base like he owns the place. Even O1 gives him some respect. Leader, report. Alert from the outer watchtower. Radar has detected. An unidentified convoy is approaching us. Distance 10 kilometers. They possess heavy firepower. Looks like this lighthouse is too bright. It's attracting all sorts of trouble. Straighten my collar. The fluid combat suit instantly enveloped my body. 1. Gather the team. Big Black, stop playing around. I walked to the edge of the terrace, staring at the headlights faintly visible in the distant snowstorm. Another delivery coming to the door. 2 a.m. in the dead of night. The Diotide base is brightly lit, but the surrounding ruined city is shrouded in darkness. A scraping sound comes from the distant darkness. On the perimeter watchtower, old Zhang, the sentinel on duty, shivered, instinctively tightened his grip on the rifle. He put on his night vision goggles, looked toward the source of the sound. What he saw nearly scared the soul out of him. He saw the outer wall of an abandoned building a few hundred meters away, covered densely with dozens of dark figures. They crawled on all fours, climbing vertically up the wall like geckos at incredible speed, insanely fast. Even more terrifying is, the eyes of these monsters glowed an eerie green through the night vision. Their mouths were full of sharp fangs. Mutated zombie night devils, a new species that has just appeared recently, absorb sunlight and hide in shadows to rest during the day, become extremely active and bloodthirsty at night. Not only incredibly fast, they even understand basic teamwork. Enemy night devil swarm, at least 200 in number. Old Zhang. A piercing scream echoed through the base via walkie-talkie. Almost simultaneously, those dark figures moved. They let out a sinister laugh and rushed straight toward the watchtower. A few hundred meters distance. Took them only seconds to cover. The machine gun on the watchtower immediately roared. Night devils are way too agile. Most bullets missed. A few night devils were about to charge the tower, rip apart the sentinels. A piercing high-frequency sonic wave suddenly erupted from the silver spire atop the base. Sonic repellent tower. I used laboratory sonic weapon technology to upgrade the defenses, specifically targeting the auditory system of mutated creatures. The night devils at the front clutched their ears in pain, lost their balance midair, and crashed heavily to the ground. Then countless red laser dots appeared in the darkness. Automated sentry machine guns activate. This is my intelligent defense line, whose fire control program one wrote myself using mechanical affinity. Lock on targets and fire. An emotionless electronic voice sounded. Deployed on the base's perimeter. 50 automatic machine guns on the walls. Fired simultaneously. This time, it was no longer blind spraying, but precise point shooting. Each bullet seemed to have eyes, drilling straight into the Night Stalkers' foreheads or hearts. Bloody snowflakes bloomed in the night sky. Those Night Stalkers, famous for their agility, in the face of absolute mechanical computing power, were as fragile as paper. In just 1 minute, all 200+ Night Stalkers fell to the ground. Corpses covered the open ground outside the base. Not a single one could get within 50 meters of the wall. Is this the power in his hands? Old Zhang, the sentry, slumped to the ground, watching the scene before him, his eyes full of shock and awe. He didn't even have time to pull the trigger, before the battle was already over. Meanwhile, I stood in the control room, looking at the results on the screen. Yet my expression remained solemn. The number of Night Stalkers is increasing, and their evolution speed is getting faster. Passive defense alone won't work. Our defense perimeter is too small. Once we encounter an even larger beast tide, there won't be any room for a buffer. What do you want to do? I drew a circle on the electronic map with my finger, encompassing a 5-kilometer radius, centered on Diotai. I want to completely clear this area and establish a safety buffer zone. And in this buffer zone, I want my eyes and teeth everywhere. Early the next morning, the base gates opened. Hundreds of fully armed soldiers, under the cover of dozens of combat robots, marched out of the base in a grand procession. They were not just there to clear zombies, but also to install monitoring probes and automatic sentry guns at every key intersection. On this day, the survivors of Huacheng witnessed a scene they would never forget. For the first time in the apocalypse, humans took the initiative to strike. Those terrifying monsters were driven and slaughtered like sheep. And then flags representing civilization were planted. The lighthouse light of Diotai finally illuminated further distances. 7 days after the buffer zone was established, the expansion of Diotai base was in full swing. Zombies within 5 kilometers were basically cleared, and several main roads leading to the outside world were opened. However, clear roads brought not only more survivors, but also attracted greedy wolves. At 12 p.m., a piercing air raid siren suddenly echoed throughout the base. Warning, a heavy armed convoy detected on the northern main road. Quantity, 30 vehicles. No response to identification signals. I put down the parts in my hand and strode into the command room. On the large screen, the drone sent back clear images. A massive convoy painted in desert camouflage was speeding along the road that had just been cleared. The convoy included several modified heavy trucks, with 105mm howitzers mounted in their beds. In the middle of the line were several armored personnel carriers full of soldiers. Most noticeably, all vehicles were sprayed with a Red Cross emblem, with 3 large words written below. Salvation Army. Salvation Army? More like the robbery army. These people drifted down from the north. Their reputation is terrible. Wherever they go, not a blade of grass is left. Leader, they've sent a communication, requesting to come in. The screen flickered, and a burly, bald man with a fleshy face, wearing sunglasses, appeared.
He had a cigar in his mouth.
And behind him stood several arrogant-looking espers. I am Huo Bao, commander of the Salvation Army's first column. I've long heard there's a Daojiotai base in Huajang. Filthy rich. Seeing it today, it truly lives up to its reputation. Spit it out, what do you want? Straightforward. Then I'll be blunt. I heard you have an antidote reagent, and all these supplies in the city. We, the Salvation Army, fight to save all of humanity. You have an obligation to support us. The conditions are simple. Hand over the formula for the antidote and the semi-finished products. Then send half of your stockpiled supplies, including food, weapons, and women, to my camp. As long as you behave, I might consider giving you a Model Army Supporter banner. What do you say? Dead silence filled the command room. One was trembling with rage, wishing he could crawl through the network to burn this rogue. But I laughed. Half the supplies and women too? Are you still dreaming? Girl, don't throw away the respect I'm giving you. See the cannons behind me? With one command, I can level that turtle shell of yours within half an hour.
And
Don't think you're special just because you have a few robots. My Esper battalion specializes in curing all kinds of defiance. Having said that, an Esper behind Huo Bao suddenly raised his hand, lightning flashing in his palm, shattering a rock as a show of force. Is that so? Since you love playing with electronic equipment so much, I'll play along. Mechanical affinity, remote overload. My consciousness instantly crossed a distance of 10 kilometers, forcibly invading via the radio signal the electronic systems of the Salvation Army convoy. Huo Biao's screen suddenly flashed with static, followed by terrified cries coming through the intercom. Report, Commander. The artillery aiming system has failed. It's spinning wildly. Not good. The armored vehicle's engine temperature is too high. The cooling system is locked. The electronic detonator on the ammo truck. Beep, beep, beep. It's counting down. Run. The screen shook violently. In the footage sent back by the drone, the Salvation Army convoy's ammo truck suddenly suffered a sympathetic detonation. A huge fireball flipped the two neighboring personnel carriers. The entire highway turned into a sea of fire. What's happening? Who did this? Huo Bao scrambled up from the ground, his sunglasses shattered, raging impotently at the air. At this moment, my cold voice came again from the one unbroken communicator. This is my answer. Get out of my territory. Otherwise, the next thing to blow up will be your command vehicle. Having finished, I unilaterally cut the communication. All personnel, level 1 combat readiness. Open the arsenal doors. Let these bandits see what real mechanization looks like. 2 p.m. Under the scorching sun, the Salvation Army, having lost an ammo truck, did not retreat as I warned. On the contrary,
Huo Bo, humiliated and enraged, gathered all his forces.
2,000 fully armed thugs, and the remaining 20-plus combat vehicles, like a pack of rabid dogs. They roared toward the outer defense line of Diotai base. Kill! Kill them all! These ungrateful swine! Charge in! Kill all the men! The women and supplies are all yours! Kill! 2,000 thugs let out world-shaking battle cries, relying on their superior numbers. There were still several cannons positioned for support. They didn't take Diotai seriously at all. In their eyes, the earlier explosion was nothing but an accident. But as they charged into the area, 2 kilometers from the base, everyone froze in that flat, ruined square. There were no cover structures, no human soldiers, only 100 silent, steel statues standing tall. They were 2.5 meters tall, entirely pitch black, looking like reinforced versions of Terminators. Each robot's left arm was a massive alloy tower shield, while the right arm was fitted with a 6-barrel Gatling gun. These were mass-produced mechanical Tyrant Type A units. I used the Tyrant skeleton data from the X9 lab, combined with metalworking techniques from the Dayauta Armory, to build this first batch of heavy combat robots. What the hell are these things? Who cares about these piles of scrap metal? Brothers, let's take them apart and sell them for scrap. Dozens of thugs raised their rifles and rocket launchers, pulling the triggers at those robots. Bullets hit the gray alloy, but only created harmless sparks. Even several rockets just made the robots stagger a bit, leaving only some scorched marks behind. Their defense is insane. Just then, the mechanical Tyrant standing in the center suddenly moved. The red light in its eyes flared up sharply, issuing a cold electronic synthesized voice. Hostile targets detected. Threat level interface mode activated. All 100 mechanical Tyrants raised their right arms at once. and 100 Gatling guns began spinning rapidly, emitting an eerie, nerve-wracking hum. Crap, get down. But it was too late. A hail of bullets swept across the battlefield like a metal storm, wiping out everything in their path. This wasn't a battle. It was a massacre. The hundreds of thugs at the front couldn't even scream before they were shredded to pieces. Those crude, modified pickup trucks were blown apart under heavy machine gun fire one after another. Monsters, they're monsters. The Salvation Army, once so arrogant, collapsed in an instant against this tireless, bulletproof army of steel. Their flesh and blood seemed laughably weak. Where are the Espers? Where's the Esper squad? Quick, get up there. A dozen or so Espers charged forward, gritting their teeth, some of them. Release the fireball. Someone summoned an earth wall, trying to block the advance of the mechanical army. Meaningless tricks. Now it's my turn. Flame storm. Standing on the walls of Diote, I let out a cold snort. One beside me can barely hold back anymore. One shouts loudly. Her whole body turns into a stream of fire and charges off the wall. A giant fire tornado explodes in the center of the battlefield, swallowing up over a dozen ability users under absolute level suppression. His defense shattered like an eggshell. At the same time, I raise both hands in a grasping motion. Mechanical affinity, mass overload. All those Salvation Army vehicles still intact on the battlefield suddenly go completely out of control. Their brakes lock, steering wheels freeze. Some even speed up and crash into their own people. No, this can't be happening. We surrender. Huo Bao looks at the scene before him, utterly hopeless. The army he took pride in didn't even last 10 minutes against them. He drops his knife, kneels on the ground, and raises his hands high. Gunfire suddenly stops. 100 mechanical tyrants halt their shooting in perfect unison. They march forward with heavy steps, surrounding the remaining hundreds of prisoners. My figure appears atop the city walls. Looking down from above, I glare at this trembling mob. Surrender? Were you just saying you'd kill us all? 1. Check them. Those with blood on their hands. Execute everyone guilty of rape and murder. The rest are taken back to mine. With a crisp burst of gunfire, Huo Bao and his cronies fell in pools of blood. On this day, the survivors of Huacheng witnessed a miracle once more. That once unmatched Salvation Army was wiped out before the mechanical army of Diotai. My sphere of influence officially spans half of Huacheng after this victory. 6 months since the outbreak, with the Salvation Army's downfall and continuous expansion of Diotua's forces, the population of the Huacheng Survivor Alliance surpassed the 100,000 mark. These 100,000 people are spread across Diodutati core and several satellite outposts nearby, though I've established a comprehensive contribution system, ensuring everyone has food. A new, harsher problem has arisen.
Energy crisis.
I'm holding last month's energy consumption report. With the arsenal running at full power, plus new residential heating systems, our hydropower generators have been working at 200% overload. Last night, District C's power was out for 3 hours, almost caused the greenhouse farms there to lose an entire batch of seedlings to the cold. Looking at the report, that shocking red curve, my brows furrow tightly. Diote's lower-level hydropower generators, even after my ability enhancements, still are basic units, just a handful of household-grade machines. Trying to power an industrial city of 100,000 people is pure fantasy. And winter is coming soon. This year's winter is colder than usual. Without enough electricity for heating, many people will freeze to death. We must find new energy sources. I stand up, walk to the giant map hanging on the wall. My gaze moves past Diodutai and settles on an industrial zone in Huacheng's northern outskirts. There's a red marker there. Northern Suburb Thermal Power Plant. Before the apocalypse, that was Huacheng's largest power plant, with 4 coal-fired units, each over 1 million kilowatts. Right next to the plant is a rich open-pit coal mine. We need to take this place, but it's 30 kilometers away, and I heard a mutant beast horde is camped out there.
It's tough.
We'll seize it then. Without power, we'll fall back into the Stone Age. With power, we can revive industrial civilization. Early the next morning, a convoy of 20 heavy trucks, 10 armored vehicles, and 100 mechanical tyrants sets forth, rolling out of Diotai in full force. I lead the team myself. This time, not just 001 and the combat units, but also 500 engineers. 30 kilometers to travel. The mechanical army crushes through unimpeded. The mutant beasts around the power plant are swiftly cleared out by Gatling gunfire, swept away in no time. Standing under that massive cooling tower, even as a battle-hardened veteran, I feel a bit stunned. This giant that once powered half the city now sleeps quietly amid the wild grass. Generators rusted, transmission lines all broken, dust thick in the control room. Can it be fixed? In my eyes, there's no machine that can't be fixed. I take a deep breath, place both hands on the outer shell of the huge generator. Mechanical affinity, industrial revival, blue aura of superpowers covers the entire plant. In my perception world, this dead giant begins to wake. Rusty bearings washed by my powers become smooth again. Broken lines reconnect automatically. Burned chips reformed by metal. For a whole day and night, I use my abilities to revive this industrial wonder bit by bit, until dawn the next day.
Ignite.
The engineer's already prepared. Start the conveyor belts immediately. Black coal feeds into the boilers non-stop. The boilers, dormant for half a year, blaze fiercely again. The giant steam turbines start to slowly spin, letting out a reassuring roar. Voltage is stable. Frequency is stable. Grid connection successful. With the main switch flipped. Diote base, 30 kilometers away. Streets once dim to save power suddenly light up one street lamp after another. Factory machines run at full speed. Home heaters radiate comforting warmth. It lit up. The lights are on, power's back. No more freezing. 100,000 survivors flood the streets, cheering for the long-lost light. Some even sob with joy. I stand beneath the factory chimney, watching thick black smoke pour out. Before the apocalypse, that meant pollution. But in the aftermath, it's the signal fire of civilization. Industrial flames are rekindled, wiping sweat from my forehead. I show a tired, bold smile. From today onward, we're no longer just struggling refugees. We are the sole civilization with light on these wasted lands. 9 months since the outbreak, with the northern power plant rebooted, and industry restored, Huacheng Survivor Alliance entered a brief golden era of development. Diote's outer steel wall is taking shape. The 10-meter-high alloy walls enclose the core zone like a fortress. Factories roar day and night, producing ammunition and equipment, constantly arming the survivor army. But beneath this seemingly prosperous facade, an undercurrent is stirring. The leader's recent behavior seems off. Over the past week, all 7 of our search teams on the outskirts have disappeared. And what? And we found no signs of a fight at the scene. There were no bodies either. It's as if they vanished into thin air. I frowned deeply. In the apocalypse, search teams getting wiped out by zombies is common. Total annihilation happens all the time. But no signs of battle? That's absolutely impossible. Unless the zombies learn to ambush or lure their prey. And there's something even stranger. Zombie density around us has been dropping abnormally. The hundreds of thousands of zombies originally lingering in the South Shore district suddenly moved 30 kilometers to the west. They've cut off our supply line to the coal mine. Supply line cut off. I stood up. How could zombies understand tactics? Ordinary zombies are only attracted by sound and flesh. They have no strategic awareness at all. This kind of premeditated maneuver. There must be a commander behind it. Could another human faction be messing around? No. If it was humans, there would be traces left behind. The only ones who can command zombies are zombies themselves. Just then, a piercing alarm suddenly went off. Warning, the west defense line is under zombie horde attack. Requesting support. I immediately pulled up the west defense line's surveillance feed. Looking at the screen, a dense mass of zombies was surging toward the defense line like a tide. But strangely, they weren't mindlessly charging like before. Instead, they were filling ditches. The first few hundred zombies showed no hesitation and jumped straight into the trenches outside the defense line, using their bodies as stepping stones. The zombies behind them stepped on their fellow corpses, quickly crossed what had once been an insurmountable obstacle. Next, several huge mutated zombies lifted abandoned cars as shields, blocking machine gun fire from the city wall, covering the smaller zombies as they approach the wall. They're using tactics. How is this possible? I stared intently at the screen. Suddenly, my mechanical affinity detected an abnormal brainwave signal. The signal was extremely strong. It even interfered with the nearby surveillance cameras. The signal source is at the rear of the zombie horde. Found it. I tapped the screen to zoom in. At the very back of the horde, several huge tyrant zombies were carrying a makeshift throne. A thin figure sat on the throne, even somewhat withered. Zombie. He has an oversized, disproportionate head. His skin appears strangely translucent. You can see his brain pulsing violently inside. Waves of blue shimmer visibly emanate from him. Ultimate mutant, Brainmaster. He has neither sharp claws nor great strength, but that mutated brain is like a biological radar station. It transmits brainwaves to precisely command all zombies within hundreds of miles. At this moment, the Brainmaster seems to sense someone watching. He slowly raises his head. His solid black eyes meet mine through the screen. Then his bony fingers slowly point toward the direction of Diodatai. As he moves, the zombies on the battlefield suddenly roar in unison. Their attack instantly becomes fiercer and more organized.
He's declaring war on us.
I take a deep breath. My eyes grow more serious than ever. This is no longer a battle to wipe out pests. It's a war between two species, over survival space. Relay my orders. Citywide Level 1 alert. Activate the Iron Wall project. All civilians retreat to underground shelters. 24 hours since the Brainmaster appeared, the entire Flower City Survivor Alliance has entered an unprecedented wartime state. The air is filled with suffocating tension. Factory smokestacks spew black smoke day and night. Arms factories run non-stop 24/7. Box after box of freshly made bullets and shells are sent to the outer front lines. I stand atop the command platform at Diotai, watching the city below spinning wildly. I know the enemy we face this time is unlike any before. The Brainmaster possesses not just intelligence, but a sheer numerical advantage. According to the latest drone intel, every zombie within 200 kilometers is converging here. Estimated numbers exceed 2 million. It's a despair-inducing figure. Even 1 million pigs couldn't be caught in 3 days and nights, let alone finished off. Never mind 2 million. He's a zombie leader who fears neither death nor pain and even understands tactics. Supplies are counted up. Our ammo stockpile is ample. But in the face of this massive horde, we may hold out for only 3 days at most. And our front is just too long. I nod. Daote is solid. But it's a single point. The Survivor Alliance now has expanded to several surrounding blocks. The defenses stretch over 10 kilometers. Once a single point is breached, the zombie horde will flood in like a tidal wave, washing away everything. Shorten the defense line. Abandon every outpost outside. Pull everyone back. Concentrate defense in the core zone.
But
We've built many factories and farms on the outskirts. Lose people, keep land. Lose both people and land. Keep people, lose land. Keep both people and land. As the order goes out, a massive evacuation begins. Countless vehicles rush resources and people into the core zone. I head for the very front line. This used to be an abandoned commercial district. Now it will be humanity's last line of defense. Let's begin. I take a deep breath, placing both hands on the ground. Mechanical river cleanse. Magnet storm descends. Blue supernatural light covers an area for several kilometers. The entire abandoned city seems alive for a moment. Collapsed buildings, steel rebar, wrecked cars, even old pipelines deep underground, all burst out from the ground at my summons. Countless streams of metal converge, merge, and reshape in the air. In the shocked gaze of tens of thousands of survivors, a black metal wall, 30 meters high, 5 meters thick, rises up like a miracle. The surface of the wall is covered in sharp barbs. Every 50 meters stands a fully automated gun turret. Inside the wall are buried tens of thousands of tons of high explosive ammunition. As a last resort self-destruct measure, the iron wall. I exhausted all of my supernatural reserves, and even overdrew my life force to forge this miracle. Pale-faced, I collapsed to my knees. Black blood flows from my nostrils. Leader, I'm fine. With this wall. Even 2 million zombies. I'll break all their teeth. I wipe my nosebleed away. Gazing at this towering defense line ahead. A mad light flickers in my eyes. On the distant horizon, the black zombie horde surges in like rolling storm clouds. The Brainmaster seated on his throne stares dead into this sudden iron barrier. With those solid black eyes, he seems to sense a touch of provocation. With a wicked laugh, the first probing wave of the horde, the so-called cannon fodder, charges toward the iron wall. All units take position. For survival. For the sake of human civilization. Fight. Mingming stands atop the city wall, draws her battle blade from her waist, and roars aloud. Countless cannons fire at once. Brilliant blasts light up the gloomy sky and mark the start of the war between humans and zombies. The prelude to the ultimate showdown. 12 hours since the Brainmaster launched his all-out attack, the ground beneath the iron wall has been stained black and red. Tens of thousands of bodies pile up like mountains. But driven by the Brainmaster in the rear, more zombies tread over their fallen, like tireless black ants, scrambling upward frantically. Keep firing, don't stop. Knock them off. On the wall, the gunner's fingers are cramping up. Barrels glow red with heat. Thousands of rounds pour down every minute, shredding any zombies climbing up. But the sheer number is overwhelming. 2 million on paper. It's just a statistic. But on the battlefield, it's endless, boundless despair. Everywhere you look, the horizon is a sea of moving heads. Even the ground is hidden beneath them. Leader, the defense in Sector C is critical. Automatic turrets there have run out of ammo. Leader, a giant engineering beast appeared on the south side. They're ramming the wall. Inside the command room, bad news keeps pouring in. I stand before the holographic map, calmly dispatching every fire point. My fingers fly across the console, using mechanical affinity to remotely fix overheated, jammed weapons, and even directly control spare engineering robots to patch holes in the defense. 1. Take the superhuman squad. Burn those engineering beasts on the south side. Roger. Over the radio, one's excited shout comes through. Right after, a column of fire shoots up from the southern wall. A few mutant giant lions collapse, screaming in the flames. But it's just a drop in the bucket. As time passes, the Horde's strategy grows stranger and stranger. The Brainmaster seems to have spotted human firepower blind spots and commands a type of long-range zombie called sprayers. Hiding behind the zombie horde, they sprayed highly corrosive acid onto the city walls. Many of the defenders were caught off guard. Their faces were gruesomely melted away by the corrosion. Screaming in agony, they fell from the top of the wall. Things got even worse. Some of the agile zombies actually started forming human pyramids. They stacked up quickly at the base of the wall, forming ramps one after another, letting the zombies behind them charge straight up the 30-meter-high wall. They're up here. Prepare for close combat. A captain drew his sword. With one strike, he cut down a zombie that just leaped onto the wall. But more and more zombies kept pouring over the top. What started as a ranged suppression battle turned into brutal hand-to-hand combat. Dahe go. At this point, I didn't have time to command anymore. I put on my fluid battle armor, wielding a massive sword with a high-frequency vibrating blade. With a fully armed Dahe, I plunged into the fray. Dahe, clad in specially made titanium alloy dog armor, looked like a silver cannonball, barreling through the horde of zombies. He specifically targeted the zombies' legs. One bite was enough to cripple one. As for me on the battlefield, I was the Grim Reaper, the massive sword in my hands, swift and mighty. Each swing took down a swath of enemies. Meanwhile, the metal railings and spent casings around me, under the control of my psychic powers, transformed into deadly darts, automatically taking down enemies nearby. Get down. I kicked a charging tyrant trying to ambush me, and sent it flying over the wall. But just then, a sudden searing pain exploded in my mind. It was a psychic attack from the mind controller. My vision started to blur. Found you. In the brief instant of mental connection, I used that evil brainwave to lock onto the mind controller's location. He wasn't hiding in the rear at all. On the contrary, this cunning bastard was actually hiding inside an armored cash transport in the middle of the horde. blending in with the regular zombies, moving forward slowly with the main force. As they say, the most dangerous place is the safest place. So that's where you were hiding. I wiped the blood from the corner of my mouth. A crazed look flashed in my eyes. As long as I kill him, the zombie horde will lose command and fall into utter chaos. But that armored truck was a full kilometer from the wall, with hundreds of thousands of zombies in between. Even a tank couldn't break through that. Hey, do you dare go all out with me? Why wouldn't I? I've been in a killing frenzy for a while now. One's voice, panting heavily, came through the communicator, yet still an arrogant voice. Dahe also let out a bark. All right, since we can't get through, then we'll fly over. I looked out beyond the city wall at the endless sea of corpses. A cruel smile curled at the corner of my mouth. With both hands, I slammed hard on several massive steel plates next to me. Metal restructuring. The airdrop pod flashed with blue light. Those steel plates quickly morphed and locked together, eventually forming a streamlined metallic sphere. Everyone conceal your target. Armored truck fires from a kilometer away. Dahe and I squeezed into the makeshift metal ball. Then, I took control of a giant railgun on the city wall, aimed the barrel directly at that metal sphere. With a deafening boom, that metal shell, carrying humanity's strongest firepower, cut through the sky. With unstoppable momentum, slammed into the center of the million-strong corpse horde. Decapitation operation commences. A giant metallic sphere slammed into the heart of the corpse nest. A massive shockwave instantly turned all zombies within dozens of meters into meat paste. Even the ground was smashed into a deep pit. The dust hadn't yet settled. That armored cash truck, originally mixed among the zombie horde, slowly pushing forward, was completely forced to a halt by this blow from the sky, though not a direct hit. The violent tremor toppled the vehicle. Thick armor was left covered in cracks. The surrounding zombie horde instantly erupted. Thousands of zombies pounced on the metal sphere, trying to tear apart the intruders inside. Several giant tyrants even lifted huge chunks of concrete in their hands and smashed them against the sphere. The surface of the sphere suddenly cracked open. Get out of my way. One burst out first. Twin whips of flame over 10 meters long shot from his hands, torched the incoming zombies into charcoal. Then a streak of silver lightning shot out. Dahe, clad in titanium alloy armor, clamped down on a tyrant's leg with his jaws. Unbelievably, he flipped the several-ton beast over, slamming it to the ground. Finally, I stepped out in the fluid battle armor, holding a high-frequency vibrating sword, striding forth like a war god. Found you. Fixed my gaze on the overturned armored truck. Using my mechanic's affinity perception, I could clearly see the brainwave, with its overly developed brain, inside the cargo bay. Frightened, frantically broadcasting for help. Stop him. Block him now. The brainwave sent out by the brainwave almost formed a tangible, sinister laughter, summoned by this call. Every high-level zombie for kilometers around abandoned their tasks and rampaged this way in a mad frenzy. Dahe, block them. Buy me 30 seconds. 30 seconds, give you a whole minute. One's body erupted in a wave of fire and transformed into the shadow of a giant fiery phoenix. He did not hesitate to burn his life force, turning a 100-meter perimeter into a sea of fire. Dahe standing guard behind me. Any zombie that tried to approach was taken down by him. I didn't look back. I walked toward the armored vehicle step by step. Each step I took, surrounding metal debris would rise on its own, forming a rotating blade storm in front of me, shredding any zombies in my way.
10 meters, 5M, 3M.
Die. I pressed my right hand on the back door of the armored truck. Metallic disintegration, that so-called rocket-proof armored door, crumbling like a cookie under my powers. Inside the cargo bay, the scrawny brainwave was curled up in a corner, those pitch-black eyes filled with terror of death. He tried to unleash a psychic shock to control my mind. A burst of pain hit. Blood streamed from my nose. My vision started to blur. You want to control me. Wake up, you're dreaming. I bit my tongue, using the pain to stay lucid. The brainwave still tried to struggle, but I gave him no chance. My right hand, encased in fluid battle armor, clamped down hard on the brainwave's oversized skull. I squeezed with all my might, His head began to explode. A wave of terror shrouding the whole battlefield. Psychic oppression ended instantly in that moment. On the city wall, the survivors fiercely defending in despair suddenly noticed the zombies that had attacked so frantically before stopped moving. They were now like puppets, their souls drained, standing blankly where they were. The blood-red glow in their eyes began to fade. Then, their once unified assault instantly collapsed. With no one commanding, the zombie horde once again became scattered and disorganized. They started shoving each other around, even turning on each other over territory. We won. We beat their leader. We defeated their leader. We killed that monster. A soldier looked on in disbelief, letting his gun drop to the ground. Cheers erupted like a tsunami, echoing through the sky. At the center of the battlefield, I collapsed on the ruins of the armored truck, gasping for breath. Juan and Dahe lay by my side, covered with blood. Though battered, we were still alive, watching as the surrounding zombies started to wander off. No longer a threat. A tired smile appeared on my face. Finally, this endless night was over. From today on, this land's masters are humans. 3 years later, the first rays of the morning sun pierced through clouds that had hung over Changling River for years. Alarms rang out across Hope City, but this time, it wasn't an urgent air raid alarm. It was loud and inspiring, a charge horn that brought tears to every survivor's eyes. I stood atop the highest lookout tower at Dayautati, watching the mighty armada on the river, a steel fleet stretching as far as the eye could see. They weren't zombies, nor warlords. They were one destroyer after another flying bright red flags and landing craft. At the very front of the fleet, a 5-starred red flag waving in the wind. In this gray and desolate wasteland, red as fire, red enough to stir the soul. They're finally here. Boss, it's the nation. The country survived. They fought their way back. I crushed my cigarette. A smile of relief broke on my lips. Juan's voice beside me was trembling. He had killed countless zombies in his life, faced innumerable hopeless situations, never shed a tear, but now his eyes were red. Half an hour later, Central Administrative Square. Tens of thousands of survivors gathered here spontaneously. Many stared at the neat formation of soldiers marching onto the square in perfect order, could not help but burst into tears. Those were tears of torment, and tears of returning home. A gray-haired old general, carrying a marshal's star, strode up to me. Looking around at this orderly and fully equipped industrial city, there was awe and admiration in his eyes. I am Li Zhangliu, Commander-in-Chief of the Southwest Restoration Army. Comrade Xiamo, thank you. You represented the nation and the people in guarding this last spark. The old general saluted me with perfect military form. His voice was loud and clear. Facing this old general, I felt no arrogance as the city lord. I straightened my back and returned a salute not perfect, but absolutely solemn. Fortunately, I did not disgrace my mission. I took a black hard drive from inside my coat, along with a specially made key. I handed them over with both hands. This is the highest level of control for the Dayautati base, as well as all laboratory research data and the vaccine formula. I'm handing them over to the nation now. The surrounding officials and higher-ups were in an uproar. City Lord, this is your life's work. Miss Xia, you waved your hand, interrupting everyone's objections. I built this city to survive, but to truly restore civilization. If we want crops to grow on this land again, if we want children to sit and study in bright classrooms, I alone, Shamo, am not enough. One Dayautati alone is not enough either. Only the power of the nation can piece these shattered mountains and rivers back together again. I looked at the old general, eyes full of determination. The country will not forget you. The people will not forget you. The old general gave me a deep look and solemnly accepted the hard drive. The handover process went smoothly. With the nation's powerful machinery in motion, more supplies arrived, and more advanced medical teams moved in. This city didn't come to a halt because I left. Instead, it became even more vibrant and full of life. 3 days later, at dusk, a modified off-road camper van was parked quietly at the city gate. It didn't alarm anyone. I took off the city lord's uniform that symbolized authority and changed into casual clothes. One was in the passenger seat, holding the old and almost immobile Dahe. Are you really not staying? The old general said that. As long as you're willing. You're the highest executive official of the new special district. No, my mission is to keep vigil, to light a lamp in the darkest times. Now that daylight has come, this lamp should be extinguished, and let the sunlight take over. Besides, I'm not suited for sitting in an office reviewing files, rather than being an official. I want to be a witness. I want to spend the rest of my life exploring this land, seeing the crops, growing again under the new order, seeing children who no longer live in fear. I shook my head, my gaze passing through the windshield, looking toward the endless mountains in the distance. I turned my head and looked at the flag flying atop the city walls. A relieved smile appeared at the corner of my mouth. Then let's go. Wherever you go, I'll go. This flourishing age is just as you hoped. Let's see it well on behalf of those who never made it to today. And take a good look. One was momentarily stunned, then smiled in relief.
He reached out to stroke Dahe's head in his arms.
His eyes gentle and resolute. Let's see it well. I started the engine, and the off-road camper slowly drove away from the steel fortress I protected for 3 years. The setting sun cast our shadows, long and far, reaching to the edge of the land. And behind us, Daratoy Base was brightly lit. Countless construction vehicles busy at work, the radio broadcasting inspiring orders to build, young soldiers patrolling in neat steps. That place that once stood alone like Noah's Ark in the darkness has now become the strongest cornerstone of the nation's revival map. It doesn't matter if the merit isn't mine alone, but I was definitely a part of that success. Perhaps this is the best ending.